Yeah. Yep. We're we're streaming. Ironically enough, yeah, I will be doing Goku here in a second. And he did record for episode 3 of Dragon Ball Super, so yeah. But yeah, my name's not Goku, it's Gur. So if you could call me that, it would be right. Alright. Let me bring up Adobe Audition so you guys can see that. If I can find it. I guess I don't have it. Alright, one sec. Okay. Okay. Let me figure out a way to have the see. Nope. That ain't it. Where the fuck is Water Fox? I have no clue. I'm still waiting on my reaction art for that to be done. Water Fox, where the fuck are you? There we go. Okay. So you guys can see the script, and I need to make this a bit smaller so that you can also see that. Oh fuck. One sec. Hit the screen, and then make this smaller. Son of a bitch. Maybe stretch the screen. Alright, here we go. Let me switch microphones here real quick. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and hit record. Okay. So this is the other team, huh? Seems like a bunch of flunkies to me. Piccolo! Look! It's Frieza! So this is the other team, huh? Seems like a bunch of flunkies to me. Piccolo! Look! It's Frieza! You're not the first to say that. You're not the first to say that. Definitely minimize all this shit so I can see all this stuff. Yes, I do. Am I using the right mic? It should be. I'm not. Fuck. Why did it do that? Alright, one sec, I gotta redo these. It was on the wrong mic. Okay, here we go. So this is the other team, huh? Seems like a bunch of flunkies to me. Piccolo, look! It's a Frieza! So this is the other team, huh? Seems like a bunch of flunkies to me. Piccolo, look! It's a Frieza! You're not the first to say that. You're not the first to say that. Yeah, huh? We're Saiyans from planet Earth. Yeah, huh? We're Saiyans from planet Earth. Let me stop this one more time because I got to make this a little bit bigger. One sec. Yeah, whatever. You can't see the entire script, but I can see it. Okay, fine. Scroll down. I'll do Vegeta next. Crap! I didn't study! Crap! I didn't study! Crap! I didn't study! Vegeta! What did you get for number 4? Vegeta! What did you get for number 4? Vegeta! What did you get for number 4? Next line. So if blue times green is divided by 7, then the answer is Broly? So if blue times green is divided by 7, then the answer is Broly? So if blue times 7 is divided so if blue times green is divided by 7, then the answer is Broly? But you said that he was better than you. But you said that he was better than you. But you said that he was better than you. No promises. No promises. No promises. Okay, but sorry if you hear a loud clapping noise. You see, I'm dummy thick. Good lord. Okay. Okay, but if you hear a loud clapping noise, you see I'm... I can't even say that with a straight face. Okay, but if you hear a loud clapping noise, you see I'm a... God damn it. Okay, but if you hear a loud clapping noise, you see I'm dummy thick. One more time. Okay, but if you... But... Okay, but sorry if you hear a loud clapping noise. You see I'm dummy thick. Wow! Keep that spit coming! It's really giving me a workout. Wow! Keep that spit coming! It's really giving me a workout. Now I'm feeling it. Kamehameha! Now I'm feeling it. Kamehameha! This isn't working. Let's try this instead. Goku Flip! This isn't working. Let's try this instead. Goku Flip! Didn't think that would actually work. Didn't think that would actually work. Didn't think that would. Didn't think that would actually work. Okay. Can't believe I'm fighting Frieza again. Can't believe I'm fighting Frieza again. Nice to meet you too. Nice to meet you too. Nice to meet you too. Are you hitting on me? Are you hitting on me? I respect your honesty. I respect your honesty. Did I just get laid? Did I just get laid? What? 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 You're holding back. Why don't you transform into your final form? You're holding back. Why don't you transform into your final form? That's racist. That's racist. That's racist. What? What? Still salty after all these years? I still get to turn Super Saiyan first for Frieza? What? Still salty? What? Still salty after all these years? I still get to turn Super Saiyan first for Frieza. So you gonna transform or what? So you gonna transform or what? Why are you still holding back? Why are you still holding back? Not yet, anyway. Not yet, anyway. Okay. From here on out, we both go full power. No more holding back. Speaking of which, we're, oh, good lord. From here on out, we both go full power. No more holding back. Speaking of which, here are all the forms I haven't used yet. Kaioken, Super Space Warrior, Super Saiyan Warrior, Super Saiyan Grade 1, Super Saiyan Grade 2, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan God, and Blooper Saiyan. From here on out, we both go full power. No more holding back. Speaking of which, here are all the forms I haven't used yet. Kaioken, Super Space Warrior, Super Saiyan Warrior, Super Saiyan Grade 1, Super Saiyan Grade 2, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan God, and Blooper Saiyan. Don't hold back! Give me your entire load! Don't hold back! Give me your entire load! Meh, I've had better. Meh, I've had better. He was a national treasure. He was a national treasure! Okay. Now let's do Vegeta. Alright, we'll do Kaba first, I guess. Excuse me, sirs. You two are saying... excuse me, sirs. You're Saiyans too, aren't you? Excuse me, sirs. You're Saiyans too, aren't you? I'm from planet Sadala. Yep, that's right. Yep, that's right. Correct. Yep, me and my father are really close. Yep, me and my father are really close. What? Do you need to talk? Do you need to talk to someone? All right. Yep, he used to be a low-class Saiyan a long time ago. What's a Kakarot? All right, let's see. More Kaba lines. Did we have any? No, that's it on Kaba. All right, Vegeta. Here we go. So you're a Saiyan from a different universe, huh? And your planet didn't get destroyed and your race isn't extinct. Fuck. And your planet didn't get destroyed and your race isn't extinct. Your father was actually around too. And a cum-stained crack-horrible lizard didn't enslave and abuse your race, and unspeakable acts of depravity, extending into possible molestation. And a cum-stained crack-horrible lizard didn't enslave and abuse... Fuck. And a cum-stained crack-horrible lizard didn't enslave and abuse your race, and unspeakable acts of depravity, extending into possible molestation. Never mind that last one. What, you think you're better than me? What, you think you're better than me? Okay. Talk with me. Tell me about your king. Did he rise through the ranks of power and ascend to the throne with no rhyme or reason? Talk with me, baby. Tell me about your king. Did he rise to the ranks of power and ascend to the throne with no rhyme or reason? Talk with me, Kaba. Tell me about your king. Did he rise to the ranks of power and ascend to the throne with no rhyme or reason? Ha! Typical. It's got Kakarot written all over it. Is Kakarot your king? What does he think he's better than me? Fuck. Okay. Typical. It's got Kakarot written all over it. Is Kakarot your king? What does your king think he's better than me? Fuck. Oh my god, it's so great. Huh. Typical. It's got Kakarot written all over it. Is Kakarot your king? What does your king think he's better than me? Okay, good. Shisha, don't share answers! Fuck. She said don't share answers! I told Kakarot to bring his son Gohan, but did he listen to me? No. Stupid Gohan thinks he's better than me. Okay. I told Kakarot to bring his son Gohan, but did he listen to me? No. Stupid Gohan thinks he's better than me. Oh, fuck. My wife only spits. 3 years ago. Oh, fuck. 3 years ago. It's 2019. Get the hell over it. It's 2019. Get the hell over it. Kakarot, quit being a douchebag and turn Super Saiyan. quit being a douchebag and turn Super Saiyan! Fuck. Ah, okay. Kakarot, quit playing! Kakarot, quit being a douchebag and turn Super Saiyan! Is this recording? I swear to God, if it... Okay, it is. I was about to say. Alright. What, you think you're better than me? What, you think you're better than me? Who the fuck. Who the hell do you think you're fooling? Final form my ass! Who the hell do you think you're fooling? Final form my ass! So you got Super Saiyan 3? What, you think you're better than me? So you got Super Saiyan 3? What, you think you're better than me? My voice cracked. Oh, fuck. So you got Super Saiyan 3? What, you think you're better than me? What, you think Kakarot's better than me? What, you think Kakarot's better than me? What, you think Kakarot's better than me? Thank you for watching! Thank you for watching! Alright. And there's Vegeta's lines. Good lord. Oh, hiccup. And I'm supposed to be doing Frost too, but I'll do that later. Hiccups are hitting me. Champa, here we go. Let's go all the way back up. Hey, Champa. Excuse me. Trying to find Champa's lines. Vados, what's that sound? Vados, what's that sound? What about them cheeks? What about them cheeks? What about them cheeks? But why though? But why though? But why though? Let's see. Do I have any more Champa? Yes, I do. Is that a sexual innuendo? Is that a sexual innuendo? Is that a sexual innuendo? What's it mean? What's it mean? What's it mean? But why though? But why though? But why though? And that's it for Champa. I'll probably have to go get something to drink to do Frost, because I gotta do my Linda Young Frieza for that. I will be right back. I'm gonna go get something to drink. Okay, back. Alright, I have a crude tea made out of honey and cinnamon and hot water. Okay. Frost, here we go. Alright. Find Frost.
Nice to meet you, Goku. Nice to meet you, Goku. Nice to meet you, Goku. So firm and strong. So firm and strong. So firm and strong. Yes. 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 Already between my legs, on the first date, moving too fast, aren't we, monkey? Already between my legs, on the first date, moving too fast, aren't we, monkey? Face down, monkey up, that's the way I like to. Face down, monkey up, that's the way I like to. Let's take this slow. Let's take this slow. Hold the fuck up. Bitch, I done been.
Fuck.
Hold the fuck up. Bitch, I done been. Ah.
Okay, here we go.
Hold the fuck up. Bitch, I've been told about you before. How ironic that the pot is calling the kettle black. And your hair's black, by the way. Hold the fuck up. Bitch, I've been told about you before. How ironic that the pot is calling.
I'm speaking too fast. Alright.
Hold the fuck up. Bitch, I've been told about you before. How ironic that the pot is calling the black. How ironic that the pot is calling the kettle black. And your hair's black, by the way. Hold the fuck up. Bitch, I've been told about you before. How ironic that the pot is calling the kettle black. And your hair's black, by the way. The name's Frost, actually. The name's Frost, actually. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Maybe later. Maybe later. Monkey, please! You're the one that pounded my ass into the ground! Monkey, please! You're the one not pounding my ass into the ground! If you want to see my final form, monkey, then so be it! If you want to see my final form, monkey, then so be it! You said it, not me. You said it, not me. Taste my full power! Taste my full power! Taste my full power!
I should probably scream that a little louder, I guess.
Taste my full power!
That'll work.
Bill Cosby smash! Bill Cosby smash! Bill Cosby smash! Be gone, monkey! Be gone, monkey!
And there we go. Huzzah. There's all my lines for episode 3 of Super. Huzzah. I did it. Now we go through and edit these. Okay. 1 sec, I will. See what I can do, I guess. All right. That's doing its thing. It's doing noise reduction. Recording lines for Dragon Ball Super Episode 3. That's what I'm doing. Okay. Now we go through and delete all the shitty takes and whatnot. Here we go.
So this is the other team, huh? Seems like a bunch of flunkies to me. Piccolo, look! It's a Frieza! So this is the other team, huh? Seems like a bunch of flunkies to me. Piccolo, look! It's a Frieza! You're not the first to say that. You're not the first to say that. Yeah, huh? We're Saiyans from planet Earth. Yeah, huh? We're Saiyans from planet Earth. Let me stop this one more time. Crap! I didn't study! Crap! I didn't study! Crap! I didn't study! Vegeta! Vegeta! What did you get for number 4? Vegeta! What did you get for number 4? Vegeta! What did you get for number 4? So if blue times green is divided by 7, then the answer is Broly? So if blue times green is divided by 7, then the answer is Broly? So if blue times 7 is divided so if blue times green is divided by 7, then the answer is Broly? So if blue times 7 is so if blue times green is divided by 7, then the answer is Broly? But you said that he was better than you. But you said that he was better than you. But you said that he was better than you. But you said that he was better. No promises. No promises. No promises.
Oops.
No promises. No promises. Okay, but sorry if you hear a loud clapping noise. You see, I'm dummy thick. For the sexual thrill! Okay, but if you hear a loud clapping noise, you see I'm... I can't even say that with a straight face. Okay, but if you hear a loud clapping noise, you see I'm a... God damn it. Okay, but if you hear a loud clapping noise, you see I'm dummy thick. Okay, but if you... Okay, but sorry if you hear a loud clapping noise. You see I'm dummy thick. Wow! Keep that spit coming! It's really giving me a workout. Keep that spit coming! It's really giving me a workout. Kamehameha! Now I'm feeling it. Kamehameha! Now I'm feeling it. Kamehameha! This isn't working. This isn't working. Let's try this instead. Goku Flip! This isn't working. Let's try this instead. Goku Flip! Didn't think that would actually work. Didn't think that would actually work. Didn't think that would actually work.
I can get rid of this take.
Can't believe I'm fighting Frieza again. Can't believe I'm fighting Frieza again. Can't believe I'm fighting Frieza again. Nice to meet you too. Nice to meet you too. Nice to meet you too. Hitting on me? Are you hitting on me? I respect your honesty. I respect your honesty. Just get laid. Did I just get laid? Did I just get laid? What? 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 You're holding back. Why don't you transform into your final form? You're holding back. Why don't you transform into your final form? That's racist. That's racist. That's racist. What? What? Still salty after all these years? I still get to turn What? Still salty after all these years? I still get to turn Super Saiyan first for Frieza? What? Still salty? What? Still salty? What? Still salty after all these years? I still get to turn Super Saiyan first for Frieza. So you gonna transform or what? So you gonna transform or what? Why are you still holding back? Why are you still holding back? Not yet, anyway. Not yet, anyway. Okay. From here on out, we both go full power. No more holding back. Speaking of which, we're oh, good lord. From here on out, we both go full power. No more holding back. Speaking of which, here are all the forms I haven't used yet. From here on out, we both go full power. No more holding back. Speaking of which, here are all the forms I haven't used yet. Kaioken, Super Space Warrior, Super Saiyan Warrior, Super Saiyan Grade 1, Super Saiyan Grade 2, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan God, and Blooper Saiyan.
Okay.
From here on out, we both go full power. No more holding back. Speaking of which, here are all the forms I haven't used yet. Kaioken, Super Space Warrior, Super Saiyan Warrior, Super Saiyan Grade 1, Super Saiyan Grade 2, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan God, and Blooper Saiyan. Don't hold back! Give me your entire load! Give me your entire load! Meh, I've had better. Meh. He was a national treasure. He was a national treasure. Okay. Now let's do Vegeta. All right. We'll do Kaba first, I guess. Excuse me, sirs. You two are saying... excuse me, sirs. You're Saiyans too, aren't you? Excuse me, sirs. Excuse me, sirs. You're Saiyans too, aren't you? Excuse me, sirs. You're Saiyans too, aren't you? I'm from planet Sadala. I'm from planet Sadala. Yep, that's right. Yep, that's right. Correct. Correct. Yep, me and my father are really close. Yep, me and my father are really close. What? What? Do you need to talk do you need to talk to someone? Do you need to talk to someone? Do you need to talk to someone? Yep, he used to be a low-class Saiyan a long time ago. Yep, he used to be a low-class Saiyan a long time ago. What's a Kakarot? What's a Kakarot? All right, let's see. More Kaba lines. Did we have any? No, that's it on Kaba. All right, Vegeta, here we go. So you're a Saiyan from a different universe, huh? So you're a Saiyan from a different universe, huh? And your planet didn't get destroyed and your race isn't extinct.
And your planet didn't get destroyed in your race. It is it. Fuck. And your planet didn't get destroyed. And your planet didn't get destroyed, and your race isn't extinct. Your father was actually around too. Your father was actually around too. And a cum-stained crack horrible lizard didn't enslave and abuse your race, and unspeakable acts of depravity, extending into possible molestation. And a cum-stained crack horrible lizard didn't enslave and abuse. And a cum-stained crack horrible lizard didn't enslave and abuse your race, and unspeakable acts of depravity, extending into possible molestation. Never mind that last one. Never mind that last one. What, you think about it than me? What, you think better than me? What, you think better than me?
Okay.
Walk with me, talk with me. Tell me about your king. Did he rise through the ranks of power and ascend to the throne with no rhyme or reason? Walk with me, talk with me, baby. So tell me about your king. Did he rise? So tell me about your king. Did he rise to the ranks of power and ascend to the throne with no rhyme or reason? Walk with me, talk with me, Kaba. So tell me about your king. Walk with me, talk with me, Kaba. So tell me about your king. Did he rise to the ranks of power and ascend to the throne with no rhyme or reason? Ha! Typical. It's got Kakarot written all over it. Is Kakarot your king? What does he think he's better than me?
Fuck. Okay.
Typical. It's got Typical. It's got Kakarot written all over it. Is Kakarot your king? What does your king? What does your king think he's better than me?
Oh my god, that's so great.
What is your king? What is your king?
This take is great.
Typical. It's got Kakarot written all over it. Is Kakarot your king? What does your king think he's better than me?
Fuck. Oh my god, that's so great.
Typical. It's got Kakarot written all over it. Is Kakarot your king? What?
Hold on. Gotta get in there and cut out the breaths and shit.
Typical. It's got Kakarot written all over it. Is Kakarot your king? What does your king think he's better than me? Typical. It's got. Typical. It's got Kakarot written all over it. Is Kakarot your king? What does your king think he's better than me? What does your king think he's better than me? Okay, good. Okay, good. She said don't share answers! She said don't...
Fuck.
She said don't share answers! She said don't share answers! She said don't share answers! I told Kakarot to bring his son Gohan, but did he listen to me? No. Stupid Gohan. But did he listen to me? No. Stupid Gohan. Thinks he's better than me.
Okay.
I told Kakarot to bring his son Gohan, but did he listen to me? No. No. Stupid Gohan. Thinks he's better than... No. No. Stupid Gohan. Thinks he's better than me. My wife only spits. My wife only spits. Three years ago.
Oh fuck.
3 years ago. It's 2019. Get the hell over it. It's 2019. Get the hell over it. Kakarot, quit being a douchebag and turn Super Saiyan! Kakarot, quit being a douchebag and turn Super Saiyan!
Fuck. Ah, okay.
Kakarot, quit being... Kakarot, quit being a douchebag and turn Super Saiyan!
Is this recording? I swear to God, if it... Okay, it is. I was about to say.
What you think about it, me? What you think about it, me? What you think about it, me?
I love that take right there. That one before this.
What you think about it, me? Who the hell?
Fuck.
Who the hell do you think you're? Who the hell do you think you're fooling? Final form my ass! Who the hell do you think you're fooling? Final form my ass! So you got Super Saiyan 3? What you think about it, me? So you got Super Saiyan 3? What you think about it, me?
My voice cracked. Fuck.
So you got Super Saiyan 3? What you think about it, me? What you think Kakarot's better than me? What you think Kakarot's better than me? What you think Kakarot's better than me? Thank you for watching! Thank you for watching!
Alright. And there's Vegeta's line.
Thank you for watching!
Alright. And there's Vegeta's lines.
Vados, what's that sound? Vados, what's that sound?
I know, right?
What about them cheeks? What about them cheeks? What about them cheeks? But why though? But why though? But why though? Is that a sexual innuendo? Is that a sexual innuendo? Is that a sexual innuendo? What's it mean? What's it mean? What's it mean? But why though? But why though? But why though?
I'll probably have to go get something to drink to do Frost. Because I gotta do my Linda Young Frieza for that.
Nice to meet you, Goku. Nice to meet you, Goku. Nice to meet you, Goku. So firm and strong. So firm and strong. So firm and strong. So firm and strong. Yes. 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 Already between my legs, on the first date, moving too fast, aren't we, monkey? Already between my legs, on the first date, moving too fast, aren't we, monkey? Monkey up, that's the way. Face down, monkey up, that's the way I like to. Face down, monkey up, that's the way I like to. Let's take this slow. Let's take this slow. Hold the fuck up. Bitch, I done been...
But fuck.
Hold the fuck up. Bitch, I done been... Hold the fuck up. Bitch, I've been told about you before. How ironic that the pot is calling the kettle black. And your hair's black, by the way. Fuck up. Bitch, I've been told about you before. How ironic that the pot is calling...
I'm speaking too fast. Alright.
Hold the fuck up. Bitch, I've been told about you before. How ironic that the pot is calling the black... How ironic that the pot is calling the kettle black. And your hair's black. Hold the fuck up. Bitch, I've been told about you before. How ironic that the part is called
Andrea.
Black. And your hair is black, by the way. The name's Frost, actually. The name's Frost, actually. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Maybe later. Maybe later. Monkey, please! You're the one that pounded my ass into the ground! Monkey, please! You're the one not pounding my ass into the ground! If you want to see my final form, Monkey, then so be it! If you want to see my final form, Monkey, then so be it! You said it, not me. You said it, not me. Taste my full power! Taste my full power! Taste my full power!
I should probably scream that'll
Taste my full power!
that'll work.
Bill Cosby smash! Bill Cosby smash! Bill Cosby smash! Be gone, monkey! Be gone, monkey!
And there we go.
Alright. Save. Dragon Ball Super Episode 3 Goku Kaba Vegeta Champa Vegeta Frost. Okay, there we go. And then I go over to Shiny and send those to her. No, of course, it's too big. Oof. Yeah, I'll do that later then. I don't really have anything planned for today. Yeah. Yeah. Nobody in any of the voice chats. So, I don't know what to do now. I had nothing planned. I was recording that stuff and I figured, fuck it, might as well show people. But other than that, I've got nothing. I guess I could just open up Q&A thing, I guess. Ask questions. Fuck it. Alright. Answer questions. Ask away. Because I had nothing planned for today. We got 5 people here. I'm gonna try. My computer sucks, so I can't. And the Wi-Fi is kind of poop right now, so I can't do remote play for my computer. It's too far away to do like a capture card or anything. So recording PS4 gameplay is kind of difficult at the moment. I'm good, Andrea, for now, which is decent, I guess. My nose itches. Trying to think. Final Fantasy VII. I'm trying to think what else came out. I don't have a Switch anymore, so I can't do Sword and Shield. I will eventually do the Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC because that was announced. I can't really think of anything else that I actually cared for. Last year's E3 was Last of Us 2. I plan on doing that. Eyes itch. Yeah, we're just kind of sitting here chilling. Yeah, I plan to do Mortal Kombat, but once again, I kind of can't because I don't have. I'm not sure how to record PS4 gameplay anymore. Or I totally would. And tacos are great, yes. I was considering doing Kid Goku, but that's about it. I'm overdue for a Stewie vid, which I'll do soon. Or at least try to. What I'm gonna play, I have no fucking clue, because once again, my PS4 is kind of out of commission for recording, so that's a problem. Why am I so tired? I woke up at like 2 p.m. Exactly, Alex. Exactly. Guess I could listen to Spoofy. Damn. No, she didn't. I went to bed at like, I want to say 5 o'clock in the morning. I woke up at 2. So I shouldn't be tired. I'm trying to, let me see. It seems like they are remaking the Legacy of Goku games from the Game Boy Advance. So that's pretty cool. You know, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Doing what, Darius? What exactly do you want me to do in Xenoverse 2? And my name's not Gurku. Oh. I'm trying to think of some more games that could be remade. I don't know. That's a tough one. I used to play Michael Jackson's Moonwalker a lot as a kid. It'd be neat for that to get a remake, I guess. Three animes, Yu Yu Hakusho, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, Fairy Tail. I'm still like, I think 2 arcs behind on Fairy Tail, speaking of which I need to get back and go binge watching that. Naruto Shippuden's pretty good too, and so is Bleach. Kill la Kill's another good one. Well, once again, Darius, if you want me to play Xenoverse 2 again, what do you want me to do? I finished all the story, I finished all the PQs, and I've fought most of my friends. What do you want from me? What do you want me to do in Xenoverse 2? Please tell me. I want to hear this. Unless CL just banned you. CL, I'm in your chat if you want to come hang. Just so you know.
Summertime's great, but just because the temps are high doesn't mean your energy bill has to be. Take some simple, low-cost tips from DTE, like changing your air filter every 3 months to make sure your HVAC system isn't wasting
why am I so tired?
Or install and properly set a programmable thermostat to save about $180 a year. You can keep the family cool.
I don't know why I'm so tired. Like, I was up until like maybe 5:30 or so with Tom,
Save energy.
and I woke up at like 2 something. I shouldn't be tired, but I am. It's weird. It could be the fact that I just did like I did Goku, Kaba, Champa, Vegeta, and Frost just now. Or Super.
Days. That's how long it takes the average company to find.
So that happened.
Glassdoor can help you quickly find the right job candidate in half the resumes. From 62 million job seekers, Glassdoor only matches you with qualified candidates who have the skills and experience.
I think so, Alex.
Business needs to grow. And Glassdoor hires are committed. They're 30% more likely to stay with your business longer. Go to glassdoor.com/hire. Glassdoor.
So you got a full night's sleep. What, you think you're better than me?
No, that time of the month is trying to hit, so yeah, I slept last night.
Andrea says, yeah, if you have to live with one of your favorite husbandos or waifus from any anime, who would it be and why?
Oh
So
God, it's a joke.
let's see, probably Rukia Kuchiki from Bleach, because love her.
Give me Riku or Marluxia.
They said animes.
Oh, bullshit.
Yeah, Rukia Kuchiki, because she is adorable as hell, and I feel like she would appreciate me.
Girl sees her naked. I appreciate it. Show me.
Exactly.
But Rhea Scrammer all the way. So I'm looking into buying a vehicle.
Goku Black would not appreciate you.
Yeah, he wouldn't. He'd call you like
It's the
scum.
only anime I can think of that I have that is the Mondo right now.
He would call you scum, immortal, and then tell you to die.
And probably kill you.
Exactly. You should just die. You know what? I'll do it for you.
Be gone again. Exactly. Just kill you. And is Xenoverse 2's stuff considered canon?
If Inuyasha didn't have Kagome, Inuyasha.
I understand.
What you say, girl?
I figured you would have said Seshi.
Seshi's kind of like Seshi's not quite like Goku Black, but in a way he
Well,
is.
Seshi wouldn't appreciate you either.
Exactly. See, Inuyasha would.
Be gone, Ningen Sot!
So I might be buying a vehicle soon.
Neat.
Oh.
Yeah, a motorcycle.
You're probably not used to standing on your feet, Nolan, because that used to happen to me in jobs where I had to walk and stand on my feet for long periods of time. Like my feet used to bleed and shit from that shit, from standing and walking so long.
I'm watching your Twitch chat. I don't see any of these messages. Are you on YouTube as well?
YouTube.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. You and your mixes.
I mean, I can't really think of anything to play on my channel at the moment, so here you go.
Do more Joverwatch.
My computer is being a dick and won't let me record it, or I totally would.
You can't record. It's like.
I could try, but I don't trust it.
I think it would work if you record because you're not going to be using that much of your CPU as much as you would streaming. As long as you're not streaming it and recording, you should.
I could try. Yeah, like on some real shit. Rukia lived in Ichigo's closet for years. You can't tell me they didn't fuck at least once. Like, I refuse to believe that they never fucked. Not one time.
I don't think Renji would like that.
Rukia don't like Renji like that, though.
Did
I
you
mean,
not
they
read the
got
manga?
married, but still, I'm just saying.
What are you talking about? They
for
had
the
a kid.
longest time, though, she was like, Ichigo, if you wanted this, you could have this. If you all lived in the...
I was actually like so shocked that he didn't do the typical Rukia Ichigo getting together thing and instead did the Arahime.
Once again, it would have made sense. Rukia and Ichigo spent pretty much every waking moment together.
Well, they both make sense, but it's just it would be more typical if he went the Rukia route. So that's why a lot of people were happy he didn't.
Probably Tangled, I guess, would be the Kingdom Hearts world I want to live in.
I would just rather live in the Kingdom Hearts world.
Well, no, if you had to pick a specific one in the Kingdom Hearts universe, where would you live? Tangled, for me.
Why?
Because it's all pretty and shit. Either that or Shibuya.
The world that never was, or whatever that last world is in 2.
Also, in the background, you got TWRP. It's a Tupperware remix party in your ears. You're welcome.
I got no clue what world I would want to live in.
Yeah, either Tangled or San Francisco for me.
Holy shit, that's a good question.
San Francisco, because it's kind of like a modern technology type of deal, I guess. If I were to change my answer, yeah, San Francisco. Dylan says Radiant Garden.
Radiant Garden, isn't that the palace area?
No, that's what used to be Hollow Bastion. But yeah, Q&A. Feel free to ask us stupid shit.
I'm gonna be basic. I'm gonna be basic as fuck right now. Twilight Town.
Oof.
It's like the center point of everything.
Hmm.
Because you gotta think, if you live in like the world of Big Hero 6, you gotta deal with fucking dumbass villains constantly.
Possibly, Alex? I don't fucking know. Okay, Darius, you've been told not to call me Goku like 6 times now, dude.
Is he calling you Goku or Gurku?
Goku.
This man is not Sean Schimmel.
Nope.
He wishes he had the money, but he doesn't.
Well, it depends. Are said animes and video games good?
Would you rather play video games the rest of your life? What was the question? I couldn't see really fast enough.
Would you rather play video games for the rest of your life or watch anime for the rest of your life?
Anime.
Well, I guess I go with video games because of the fact that it's a little bit more immersive.
I'd go with video games because that's basically been my life.
Yeah, but I'll go with anime because of the fact that there's way more anime out there than there are really good video games. You can always find an anime that you really enjoy, where it's going to be way harder to find a video game that you always enjoy.
Which is fair, I guess.
And you have to also remember, for anime, you can always replace a show. Once a series of a video game goes away, that series is never coming back.
Cough, cough, Prince of Persia.
Like y'all dedicated to like Final Fantasy and shit. But what if Final Fantasy goes away?
It ain't going away anytime soon. They'll still.
I'm just saying, what do you do after that?
They should make a fairy tale game. Why they haven't made any that have been released outside Japan is beyond me.
There's a mobile one.
It's not any good though. At least I haven't played it, so I don't know.
No, it's not good. They need a fairy tale MMORPG.
Mm-hmm.
Where you can make a mage, join a guild, and go on like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that would be pretty typical.
Yeah.
Because
it'd be fun.
If you think about it, though, there's not many villains in fairy tale.
Well, mostly it would be just, just fighting, dark guilds and crap like that.
Yeah, let's go fight Acnohobia constantly, because that's the only fucking character.
Fighting Xerath and stuff like that. I know, Square Enix has the rights to Full Metal Alchemist. They could totally do it, but they won't.
Let's go fight Xerath, the immortal being who can't die. That fight will last forever until you die.
Lol.
That would be a good game, fairy tale.
Mm-hmm. Yu Yu Hakusho needs more game love too.
Who would you want to make that game?
If it was a fighting game, Arc System Works would do pretty good with that.
MMORPG?
For an MMO, I think Square Enix could do that pretty well. Either that or BioWare.
So you'd want Square Enix or?
Yeah, Square or BioWare.
I think I would trust Square more.
If you were to spend one day with any idol or waifu / husbando, who would it be and how would you spend your day?
British memory in bed.
Hana Song, aka Diva, all day playing video games, eating Doritos, going out to eat, and then in bed.
Fuck you, me, just in bed. We don't need anything else. We good.
Megami, because I'd hang out with her all day and then we'd sing stuff together.
For a second there, I thought you were gonna go, and then in
No.
bed.
She's my idol, not my waifu.
Same difference.
Not.
I idolize Rhea Gregory's breast, and I still want to go to bed with them.
Which opening song, Dylan?
Yeah, I got some yummy ass food on the way.
The only thing I've had today is two
What would you
frickin'
burnt ass eggs?
Those were not burnt. First of all, they were browned. Fuck you.
Burnt ass eggs.
I'm looking at the picture right now. They were not burnt. There was no
Fucking-
black
just like
on them.
Just like that chicken wasn't burnt.
There was no-
burnt ass eggs.
There was no fucking black on them. What the hell are you talking about? Nigga.
How dare you not include me in that post?
Nigga, fuck you.
I
Yeah, which I haven't seen you in a while.
Eggs.
I'm looking at that picture right now. There's not an ounce of black on those. The fuck are you talking about?
Eggs are not supposed to be brown.
Nigga.
Watch any Gordon Ramsay fucking making eggs. They're never brown.
God damn it. No idea, Mega Matt. I had nothing planned for today. I recorded my lines for Stupor, and that was literally all I had planned. Other than that, I'm just sitting here.
That's what you were doing.
Mhm.
I saw you recording. I was like, what the fuck is he recording?
Yeah.
What, you think you're better than me?
What, you think you're better than me? Because you're not!
Thank you for watching!
Thank you for watching!
Is Kakarot your king? What, does he think he's better than me? Because he's not.
Well, Shiny will have an easy time fucking editing that because I voiced like 90% of the characters in that. So, like,
Why there?
but why there?
You should have had a line where Chamba was talking to Beerus, and you should have had it where Beerus, why are you always trying to be better than me? Because you're not. God damn, Beerus, why you always gotta be better than me?
But why there?
But why there?
Yes, I do, Crossy.
Vados,
Crossy, if you would stop being a fucking scrub and start editing. God damn it.
I have a lot of editors in your server.
We have me and Shiny by this point. Shiny, her computer is just as shit as mine, if not worse. So she needs to get a new computer before she can do anything. So Crossy, if you could step up to the fucking plate, it'd be fucking appreciated. Because good lord, I don't want it to be another, what, it was almost 7 months before episode 2 was released. I don't want that to be repeated. I'll send him to you.
Y'all should just fucking hire an editor.
I would, but like finding people is the problem.
No, dude, you can there's fucking like job sites for like computer editors and shit like that.
Mm.
You can just go on there and look for an editor.
Mm.
People do it all the time. Like these big ass YouTubers, that's all they do. They literally find people to edit for them.
Tupperware Remix Party, like bruh, they're like the modern Daft Punk, and I love it. And their music's royalty free, which is amazing. So I can play them all day, and YouTube can't do jack shit about it.
Yo, Gar,
What's
how'd you
up?
like that video last night?
Which one?
The one I sent you that wasn't demonetized and YouTube recommended?
I didn't watch it. I just looked at the thumbnail, and that was enough.
Dude, there's full on nudity in it. Full on, like everything.
Bruh.
Like they're fucking the whole cast that is actually doing the song are porn stars, and the whole thing, they're all nude, and they're literally rapping about banging each other, and it's not demonetized, and it's still on YouTube.
The fuck? And Darius, there's 3 other people on the Twitch side too.
Prescription
11
products require
people.
online physician
Yep.
consultation and are only available if a physician determines the prescription.
I don't know. Ask her. She's right there.
Important safety information.
What it do is your boy Big Snoop D-O double G, and I got a very special message to the players, to the males. 66% of men lose their hair by age 35.
EDM music?
You can do
Huh.
something about it with Hims. They got a one-stop shop for your hair. Thanks to
I would
science,
play
y'all.
Days Gone, but that requires me to get up and like. Then I can't talk to these
Go to
losers.
forhims.com/magic.
Hurtful.
FORHIMS.
Well, no, because like I can't be on my PS4 and be on my computer at the same time. Because remote play doesn't work anymore. Because of Wi-Fi and all that shit.
Something to be nerfed.
Yep. And it's my PS4 is on the other side of the room, so I couldn't do like capture card or anything either. Unless I had like a super fucking long HDMI cord.
They make 'em. You can get like a 20-foot HDMI cord for like, I think it's like $30.
Yeah, I need a really fucking long one in order to do that.
Trust me, when you need something, they have it, and you can always make it work. I remember when I was living in a house and my router was all the way downstairs and my gaming computer was all the way in a loft. I bought a fucking 50-foot Ethernet cord just so I could have direct connect.
Yeah, I have a 50-foot Ethernet cord, but like my computer's downstairs, and then the router is in my mom's room, which is like from where my computer is. There's a little hallway, the stairs, another hallway, the kitchen, the dining room, another hallway, and then my mom's room. It wouldn't reach. 50 feet isn't enough.
You know what you could do? Have the damn cable company come and they put a hole, they drill a hole in the corner of the room on the floor where you can't see it, that's so minuscule. They run a wire straight down, they'll run it straight to your room because they know how to do it, and then they'll border it against the boarding, the molding where you can't see it, and then you can just plug it in.
See, the problem with that is my grandma would never go for that.
See, what you gotta do is when she's not home, you gotta have them come and then just do it.
And then when she finds out about it, yeah, she'll raise hell.
But it'll be done by that point.
Alright, Mega Man, how are you?
That's when you gotta be like, Grandma, but I asked you, you said it was okay. You don't remember? Did you know my old age getting to you?
That'd be a dick move, Joe.
Hey, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do.
So apparently Dragon Ball Z Kakarot has a similar fighting system to Xenoverse 2. There's no more invisible walls and shit though.
Wait, what happened? What did you say? I wasn't paying attention.
I said Dragon Ball Z Kakarot apparently has a similar fighting system to Xenoverse 2.
Not surprised. Made by the same damn company. Honestly, I'm not really that hyped for Kakarot.
I mean,
It's
Legacy
meh.
of Goku remake. Hell yeah, dude. About damn time.
It's meh to me, like, I guess, like, cool band, it's awesome, it's the same shit we've seen 70 fucking
I'm
times.
still here,
already.
Darius.
Yeah.
Like, I would have rather them be like, hey, we're getting a Xenoverse 3 with a new story, and guess what? You can play as the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
I still have not beaten Devil May Cry 5.
Get on that.
It's literally sitting on my desk right now.
Get on that.
I played competitive yesterday with Rennie.
If you were in a zombie apocalypse, who from your group of friends would die first, and who will be the last one to survive? I'd say Koi would be the first to die. He'd probably do something stupid.
It's CL or Koi. It's one of them. I feel
Still being like that, Joe? Come on.
it's the truth. I don't see you being fast.
I feel like Koi would be doing something stupid and end up dying for it.
I think the last one to survive would be somebody Honestly, it'd probably be me or Gurr would say it in an area where it's nice and contained. And
I'm not gonna put myself in a situation where death is a possibility. So like,
like that's Gurr's he's gonna sit in one area where he's contained, he's safe, and he's not gonna put himself in danger. He's gonna be like the motherfucker that stays in the camp the whole time and just make sure everything's good there. And with me, I have a shit ton of weapons, so I'm pretty contained on that end. So it's either me or Gurr surviving.
It wouldn't be Tom, because Tom would be drunk 90% of the time.
Tom would get fucking paranoid, start smoking weed, start drinking, and then do something stupid to get himself killed.
Kiltano says, yeah, I see Cielo Core dying first. Drafty would try to bribe them with money, be their sugar daddies and shit.
Listen, I know you're dead, but how about I give you $100?
How about I give you $100 to call this whole thing off?
I think the revenue probably just pay the people living, like, hey, like, you want to go out and kill people, and I'll just sit here. I think Dylan said I agree. It's either Koi or CL.
I feel like Heel would probably die from like trying to save me for some reason. Either that or trying to set me up to die for some reason and end up dying himself.
I can see like him dying from like he's like running over zombies in his truck, and all of a sudden he runs out of gas.
Right. That is a very huge possibility. That man does not understand the concept of filling up his tank. Like, bruh, dude, when he came to get me from Pennsylvania, this man almost let his shit run out of gas completely twice in the course of 6 hours. Like,
wow.
Like he was in full-on panic mode because he thought we were gonna get stranded on the side of the road because he didn't get gas. Like, nigga. Like he would stop at gas stations and shit, but only like to get something to drink or something. He wouldn't get gas at the gas stations. Like, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, you're supposed to fill up like if that kind of drive. And what was it, like 9 hours?
6 hours.
6 hours. You're supposed to fill up. If you would have filled this tank up twice, it would good.
Mm-hmm. That's how many times we had to stop. But both times, he didn't fill it up until the last possible second. That too, Kiltano. Drafty would try to probably die from trying to fuck something.
Like, I know she's a zombie. Boy.
That's disgusting. Exactly. Like, he would, whenever he would stop at a gas station, he would, like, go get cigarettes or a Mountain Dew or something. He wouldn't get gas. It made no sense to me.
You know what? Gurr would probably be the last to survive because I feel like he would actually throw his friends under the bus to save himself. Like, he would trip you. He would trip you just so he could get away.
I mean, what?
I'm not gonna complain because I probably do the same shit. We gotta run. Push you down and run.
I mean, okay. Scenario for example, we're surrounded by a horde of zombies. We got what, 2 bullets left? You got 1 bullet. I got 1 bullet. We're surrounded. We're in a secluded place. We have no way out. My choices are waste 1 bullet trying to save myself, or trip you so that you get eaten, take your gun, now I got 2 bullets. And I also got some time to get away.
See, this is what I would do. We're surrounded. Each got a bullet. I shoot you, you die, I take your gun, now I have an extra bullet, and they all stuck on you on the ground, and I run away.
Okay.
No reason for both of us to die.
Okay, Andrea says, if you and your friends form a group filled with fighters, healers, and tanks, who will have what role?
Fighters, healers?
I'd be the mage.
I'm probably the strongest, so I'd probably be the tank.
Cause fuck a Mega Man. I'm not gonna put myself in a situation where death is a possibility. I'm just not gonna do it.
Mega Man's like, I think Gar's going to do the selfish thing and feed somebody to the zombies.
I mean,
Majority of us would do so.
I told him, Rich, I wasn't coming.
Like fucking me running to strip somebody. Sorry, but I gotta live.
by all means, Dylan, serenade us with your beautiful music.
I got a question.
What?
If you had one weapon in a zombie apocalypse situation, what weapon would that be?
Crowbar, multi-purpose,
Wait, what was the question?
can be used to.
One weapon in a zombie apocalypse situation, and you only can have one weapon. What weapon would that be?
Yeah, a crowbar, because you could use it as a weapon, and you could also use it to like open doors and pry things open.
Any form of bow and arrow for me.
That's also a good choice because quiet.
Quiet and reusable.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just have to go with Jur on the crowbar one.
Yeah, but that just makes noise though. Think of if you that shit drops, it's like ding 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 ding. More people gonna be looking at you.
True, but it's a quiet weapon, and it's multi-purpose. You can use it for multiple things, not just fighting.
There's a chance that you can get stuck in something too if you hit it hard enough. Remember, these are zombies.
Yeah, but a bow and arrow wouldn't help you much if you were surrounded either.
They make multiple shot bows and arrows.
Yeah, but they're ranged weapons is the problem.
They make miniature ones.
If you're surrounded, you're kind of fucked. You need a melee weapon for that. Hence the crowbar. Well, bring their asses over here.
They're swimming with a friend of theirs.
Just tell them no.
Bring their asses over here.
Or tell them no.
Matt doesn't know you guys though.
So? It's not my problem.
Exactly. You were here first. And didn't you also tell them you weren't going anyway?
As long as I was feeling alright, I would join them, but...
Once again, bring them over here.
Exactly. We here. Yo, Gur, you won't believe it. Yesterday I played Pop with Rennie, and we actually got a bunch of people who were nice.
That's surprising. I was playing comp a little yesterday. I won one game. It's awful.
We won 2 out of 3.
Like, several times, like, people were just straight up ignoring what I was saying, or they were just not listening at all.
See,
Like,
I was the team leader. I was doing everything. I was telling people who to pick, what to do, and everybody listens.
yeah, nobody listened to jack shit I had to say. Like, for example, I'll tell people, hey, we keep trickling in by ourselves. Fucking stop, group up. Let's go left, let's flank them. I've done this twice now and walked straight up the point with no opposition. Follow me. And everybody would just go their own way and not listen to a word I said. I'm like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, everybody listened to what I said.
What?
I was like, let's run bunker. Let's run ghost. Let's do this. Everybody's like, all right, cool, let's do it. Who do I pick? What do I do?
What place would I bunker down in? For a zombie apocalypse?
Prison or a school.
Yeah, a prison, a school, or maybe even a Walmart.
Or a hotel.
Reason I'd say a Walmart, because it's ground level. There's a shit ton of non-perishable food there already. Weapons.
But here's the thing, ground level is not always great.
Yeah, but at the same time, being underground means you'd have difficulty getting above ground to run away. Same thing for high ground. It'd be the opposite. Like, if you're coming down from a high place, it'd be difficult to get away. If you're on ground level, then you have an exit.
I would
Or
rather
you,
like.
or you could stay in a hospital where they have everything.
Well, I think if the hospital probably have the most zombies.
Yeah.
Not if you clear it out.
But this is more work.
Like in most zombie apocalypse scenario things that I've seen, supermarkets are typically not completely cleaned out. Like, sure, people would be coming in to raid it and shit, you know, get supplies and what have you, but for the most part, it's never fully cleared out.
See, I would go a police station, a prison, or a school.
Who's to say those wouldn't be swarmed by zombies though?
Not people. How often do you know when people die in school?
No, but they do die in a prison.
They do die in prison, but the majority of the time they die inside a cell.
You know how you solve that? Zombie apocalypse happens on a non-school day. There you go.
Non-school day. School is out today, so school's the same as that.
Yeah, I want some place where there's a bunch of non-perishable foods, and some place where like I'd be able to grow my own food if I needed to. Once again, Walmart.
I want to place
Because
either that had weapons, so we could take the weapons, have a safe haven, and we can go out and just raid any other place we fucking want. Because we have weapons.
Yeah, once again, Walmart covers all these bases because it has weapons, it has a freaking greenhouse, it has all this stuff already there.
Walmart sells like off-brand weapons. That should probably break them.
So start saving today.
Yeah, but you have a very nice supply of them at this point. Like, either that or a mall.
Combining home and auto with State Farm.
That's too big.
Yes, but once again, you'd have everything you need. A mall would be another good place.
Fucking Garrett's gonna be in the mall, fucking have a mall sanctuary, and he's gonna fucking be like eating pretzels and shit.
You would too.
I'll be alive, though, is the price. A mall or Walmart. That's where I would go.
You know what would really suck? If you had to take a shit during like a zombie fight.
Prescription products require an online
I mean, do like horses do. Just wherever you are, drop it.
What it do? It's your boy Big Snoop D-O-double-G, and I got a very
Yeah,
special
drop it.
message
Maybe a zombie will
to the
slip
male.
on it.
66% of men lose their
Like,
life by
for
age
Walmart, the doors lock. In most cases, the windows are bulletproof. So, once again,
Thanks to science,
Walmart.
it can be optional. It's $5. $5 to try it out, man, and it comes right to your crib.
A prison too. Prison has
The
weapons.
door only locks if you have electricity, though.
They have generators that run off of water. So,
Like I said, prison would probably be mine because again, they have food because they have to serve the prisoners food, and on top of that, they have weapons, and it's fucking locked down, so you're good.
yeah, making a water main or a wind, a wind fucking thing. I forget what they're called. But like generating electricity wouldn't be hard. So once again, Walmart or a mall.
To be honest, in zombie apocalypse situation, like I don't know why nobody ever thinks of this. Why not just wear
Yeah, windmill. Wear a what?
chainmail?
Right.
They ain't biting through it.
Either that or Kevlar, bulletproof vest.
Well, no, because chainmail covers everything from your hands, your feet, to your head.
Or do like a freaking Terry Crews and freaking Friday After Next. Cover yourself in phone books. I mean, for real, on some real shit, that would save the shit out of you. But yeah, for Walmart,
Yeah, back guys. I got a call.
access to electricity, fucking changes of clothes, a greenhouse, weapons, non-perishable foods. Not to mention the place is big, so you'd be able to like see threats and shit before they come towards you. So, Walmart.
Andrew's like, I like this Q&A so far. See, Gert and friends discuss and argue and things and stuff.
It's fine. Yeah. Walmart. Which, once again, because you're going to be generating electricity through, you know, either a windmill or, you know, a water main or something, you'd have an alarm system so you'd know when something comes in.
If you all had one Final Fantasy spell for real life use, which would you go with?
I don't know. Zeta Flare is pretty cool.
Ultima, yo. Or Meteor, one of the two. Damn it, Garth, see what you started?
Fine.
Stop! Damn it.
Fine. I have spoken to Stewie for 24 hours straight, and I guess being Stewie for a week would be fun. I wouldn't go with Joe because of the fact that, you know, his legs don't work.
These motherfuckers just got here with my food. It's been over an hour.
I'm probably gonna make pizza for dinner.
I got myself some sushi and some chicken pineapple or shrimp.
Yeah, I'll probably do pizza for dinner. So you know what's fucked up? These Slim Fast thing. Just because I don't, it's a nutrition drink thing. These got 250 calories in each of them, but yet a can of Coke has 140. Like, kind of shit is that?
Well, here's the thing. You ever took a health class in school before?
It's been years, but yeah.
Well, basically, there's multiple kinds of calories that you can get, and some are healthy. So the Slim Fast ones, they're probably healthy calories instead of which are soda calories, which are just made from sugar. So you're probably eating a source of calories that's made by something healthy, such as like whole grains or.
Yeah, because all I've had, I had 2 Slim Fast thingies. It's made by Ensure, so like whatever. I've had 2 of those, which is 500 fucking calories. And then, yeah, and then I had,
You're trying to be sexy out here with ass, looking like Denzel.
Nigga, I used to have an 8-pack. Fuck you mean?
This man trying to be a movie star and shit.
Shit.
Girl's like, I could look like Denzel too.
Like, I did a bunch of sit-ups and push-ups, and now I'm sexy.
Works out one time. Why are my abs not coming yet?
Crunches are a pain in the ass, though. I still can't do push-ups because of the fact that it like hurts the fuck out of my wrists.
Why don't you do fist push-ups? Those are meant to stabilize your wrist.
I could try that because like doing normal ones, like my wrists give out like really fucking quickly.
Yeah, people who have like bad like wrists, they do fist push-ups. They make a fist and they just balance themselves on their fist.
Yeah, because that shit hurt. Like that's the weird part about it is like I can't do more than like maybe 20 of them in a row without my fists like my wrists like just feeling like they're about to break and shit.
You could do that, or you can get wrist stabilizers.
Yeah, because like my chest and arms and shit don't hurt from push-ups. It's just my wrists do. It's weird.
You could be doing them wrong too. There's actually a way you're supposed to put your hands properly.
Yeah, I know.
Put it the wrong way.
Your hands like flat, and then them even with your shoulders. Yeah, I know.
No. See, like your wrist position matters. Like if you have a little turn into it,
Mm-hmm.
it can fuck it up. If you're like too straight, fucking, like
Well,
there's an
because even
actual-
diamond push-ups and shit hurt too.
Yeah, there's like multiple ways you can do a push-up to take the strain off the wrist. There's a lot of people that complain about that.
I also need to pick up dancing again. I used to dance and shit when I was
Motherfucker's trying
younger.
to be Chris Brown.
Nigga, for real, I used to.
This man's like,
On some real shit, I used to be a dancer. That's a good way to stay in shape too.
Why'd you stop?
I don't
got
know.
lazy.
Got lazy?
That explains a lot.
He got lazy, started eating Doritos. He found out that this is way better than dancing and working out. He's like, so you telling me I can make money from sitting my ass down, eating some Doritos, drinking soda, and doing funny voices on the internet?
Bet.
Fuck working out.
Right. For real, on some real shit, which sounds more appealing. One's earning me money, goddammit, you know? But yeah, I need to get back into dancing and working out and shit.
This man Gur's like, I got the piece to be Chris Brown. Now I just need to be able to dance.
Yeah, I need to get back into shape. I've been working on it. I'm 229 right now. When I got here, I was 234. So I've lost over 10 pounds already, which is nice.
Can we just take a moment to talk about Chris Brown's penis?
Right. Do y'all have a moment to talk about Chris Brown's penis?
I remember when Gur fucking originally brought that shit up. We were like, what? Bro, shrimp tempura is amazing.
But yeah, I need to find a martial arts school and a hip hop dance class, and fuck yeah, dude, I would do that shit in a heartbeat. I know a little bit of Jeet Kune Do, but not much.
Why the fuck would you want to learn Jeet Kune Do?
Bruce Lee, bro, let's go.
That shit is the dumbest fighting thing ever, trust me. The actual fighters tested it in actual combat, and they got their ass kicked by actual, like, Muay Thai fighters and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artists.
Well, you have
Good
to know
shit.
the whole thing about Jeet Kune Do is you have to be faster than the person you're fighting. If you're not, you're fucked.
It's based on Wing Chun, which is basically attack. And meanwhile,
Yeah.
that doesn't work.
You have once again, you have to be faster than who you're fighting. If you're not, you're fucked.
Trust me, it doesn't work because they had a master, literally, who'd been studying the shit since he could, and he fought a dude who just started training in mixed martial arts for 3 years and got his ass whipped. It doesn't work. It's good for exercise and cool for movies,
Yeah.
but it doesn't work in real combat.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to do something because you're going back to dance, I would go to Capoeira.
Yeah, capoeira. What's one thing you're doing?
Or if you want to be like Chris Brown, take Taekwondo.
Right. Shit, kick your fucking temple off. Let's go.
I need to go back to martial arts.
Yeah.
I did that shit for so long.
I think the only places around where I live are Kung Sudo, Jiu-Jitsu, and I think Taekwondo.
Well, you doing it for getting shape?
Both.
Jiu-Jitsu though.
Yeah, because there's a Jiu-Jitsu school around here.
Let me tell you something, dude.
Hmm.
You ever do Jiu-Jitsu, and you look at it like, yeah, you're mainly just on the mat, you're grappling, it can't be that crazy. Bro, after that first class, you're gonna be drenched, like, what the fuck? I feel like I ran a marathon.
Yeah, okay, Andrea asked, what is one thing you've always wanted to do in your life?
Professional fight.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Fighter pilot. I can't do that now. Yeah, I want to fly fighter jet. Fighter pilot.
Oh.
I thought you said you wanted to be
I wanted to go to a Michael Jackson concert, but he died
You
before.
wanted to be like
Funny story. Me and my mom actually had tickets to the This Is It tour. We were gonna go to 3 of the shows that he was doing in London, but unfortunately Michael passed, so we couldn't go. But yeah, I wanted to go to a Michael Jackson concert. I was going to, but yeah, he died.
Yeah, mine would be. I want to be at least one professional player.
Chris Brown is gonna be in Detroit on September 30th. I want to go to his concert too.
Bro, you know Chris Brown's been really falling off lately.
Bullshit! That nigga's #1 in the country right now. What the fuck you mean?
His last album that he dropped only sold 70,000.
What? Heartbreak on a Full Moon? Bullshit! That was #1 on the billboards for like 3 weeks. What you mean? What?
I was watching a streamer and they were looking it up because they were arguing who the king of pop is right now. And some dude was like, it's definitely Frank Ocean. Somebody was like, it's somebody else. I forgot his name. And somebody was like, it's Chris Brown. And like, they were like, we gotta look up who sold the most. And somebody was like, Chris Brown's last album that he dropped sold only 70,000.
That is incorrect.
Find out more at DTE.
Let me look it up right now. Let's see, charts. Yeah, Heartbreak on a Full Moon was #1 on the U.S. top Billboard 100 for 3 weeks straight. Let's see, what was it like in sales? Let's see, certifications. It was certified double platinum, which is 2 million in the U.S. So that person was wrong. It sold 2 million. They were way the fuck off. Yeah, Chris Brown is doing fine.
He's dropping another album.
Yeah, on next month.
No, this month.
No, was it this month? Yeah, you're right. The 28th. And he's going on tour. And yeah, Chris Brown is doing fine. I definitely say, yeah, Chris Brown is probably the king of R&B right now.
$5 to try it out, man, and it comes right to your crib.
I don't know. He got competition with Frank Ocean and
magic.
Yeah, but he's going to be in Detroit in September. I need to try to go. Matter of fact, the tickets go on sale today. Let me go see how much those are. Let's see, Chris Brown tickets.
Save your money, Dur.
Yeah,
but Chris Brown.
You don't have a lot of money to work with right now.
At the moment, once I get this job, I'll be fine.
You need a PC first.
I know. But once again, I'm going to be making $12.75 an hour working a full-time job. And I ain't got no bills to pay? Nigga.
You get the job.
Yeah, I don't see me not getting it. Let's put it that way.
This man's like, he's going to have like the price of the tickets in front of him to go see Chris Brown. And he's gonna have the price of the computer, and he's gonna be like, "What, Chris Brown?"
Exactly.
Let's see, how much are tickets? More info.
I'm not buying your tickets, just saying.
That's fine.
I already bought your damn game.
But Sam Witwer, though, CL. Freaking Days Gone. I will pay you back when I get this job.
$40, damn it.
I know. I know.
I'll be spoiling you.
I always had spoiled this motherfucker.
Okay, depending on where I sit. No, I just want one ticket. Okay.
Still looking it up and you don't.
Not at the moment, but like, let me see. Between 53 and 200 bucks, depending on where I sit for tickets. It ain't bad, honestly. What is one thing in your life you're grateful for? I don't know.
The friends that I made.
My friends are assholes. Fuck y'all.
I am innocent.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
See, I did nothing wrong.
Did everything wrong.
But you're an asshole too.
I wonder why. Look what my influences are.
I did not. What did I do?
I'm gonna agree with Kiltano. The one thing I'm grateful for in my life is breathing.
What did I ever do wrong to you?
I can think of a few things.
Like what?
One thing
You know what you did.
What'd I do? Go. You gotta be specific.
Okay, specifically, let's see. I can't think of anything
Don't
recently.
worry, I'll wait.
You know what you did.
Exactly. You can't think of shit because I didn't do shit.
You also did nothing to stop it. You chaotic neutral bitch.
Hey, you're the one that put your face up on Twitter. That wasn't my fault. I warned you. So I did.
Friends are assholes, man.
I didn't do anything.
You also did nothing to stop it, Joe.
I did. I literally said I can see the Photoshop now. You had a chance to pick
I did too. That's what I said too. I'm like, I'm surprised. You know, you put your face up on public, on social media. Now our friends are gonna meme it. You know that, right? You left it up on social media.
Yeah, you could have took it down. Everybody warned you.
I did warn you. See, I did my job.
Yeah, Kiltano's got my back. He said, abusing Gur, you also didn't feed me.
Bullshit.
Nope, you didn't.
I call shenanigans.
Well, you know what, Gur? You forgot my birthday last year.
You didn't tell me. I still don't know when your birthday is. You never told me.
Yes, I have.
When?
It's January 5th.
I did not know that.
I actually didn't know that either.
Y'all not revision my Twitter apparently because it literally says it right there.
Nobody ever told me your birthday. I did not know when your birthday was.
I'll be right back.
None of my friends remember my birthday.
You never told me, nigga.
I didn't get one happy birthday.
You didn't tell me when your birthday was. Nigga.
I don't want to hear it. Twitter notifies you.
I don't want to hear it either. Because you know why? No, it doesn't. Because Zammy's birthday was apparently like 2 days ago. And I didn't find out until the last possible second after like the day after. So I don't want to hear Twitter notifies you because no, the fucking don't.
Twitter does, every time I go on Twitter, it's my friend's birthday, it lets me know. It goes, hey, today is this person's birthday.
You didn't tell me?
Well, then go Twitter, bro.
Yeah. Don't tell me, so I don't know.
Oh, new chapter of Fairy Tail 100 Year Quest is out.
Neat.
The Wood God Dragon. Bro, if anybody in your chat is a Fairy Tail fan and they have finished the manga, it's not done. There's Fairy Tail 100 Year Quest. Highly recommend it. It is actually so well written. Bro, they did like a filler chapter the other day called Fairy Now, and it's a celebrity guild where all the celebrities actually look like people from Fairy Tail, and they all have different jobs though. And tell me why Julia and Gray's like look-alike from Fairy Now were strippers.
Oof. Oof.
And Gray meets like the chick that looks like Julia, which her name is like Javia or some shit like that. And fucking, she goes, "Oh, you're not the Gray I know." And fucking they like start talking, and she's like, "Only my Gray gets to see my body." And then she flashes fucking Gray from Fairy Tail. She's like, "Keep it secret though."
Oof.
It's a great chapter. You should. It's fucking hilarious. Girl, you need to play more Overwatch. Me and Rennie constantly play, but you're never on.
Mostly because my computer is a piece of shit.
But you played the last time with me with no issues.
I could try to get on right now, but I don't imagine it cooperating. We'll try it. Let's see what happens.
I got some shrimp tempura, some chicken tempura, some sushi. Like,
Yeah, I got the house to myself until midnight, so.
Ooh, gonna invite some lady friends over at the party.
See, what had happened was. What had happened. Yeah, and I do like Mega Man SR dance. Let's see. Name one thing you like about each friend and one thing you dislike.
What do you like about me, huh? What do you like, Bobby girl?
I like the way that like you have the confidence to be an asshole. I don't think I could really say anything nice about my friends. Y'all are dicks. I hate all of you. It's just I hate you guys less than I hate everyone else.
I could say nice things about you.
Don't worry, I'll wait. Come on.
You do voices really well.
I hear a lot of
Joe, I like that you have an ego that you are comfortable with stroking. You have a lot of self-confidence, and I appreciate that.
I will take that, sir. I will give you the fact that you do some great voices and you are a very funny person.
Okay, now compliment CL.
CL's an awesome person who's never mean to me.
She doesn't hang out with you enough. It's a problem.
Yes, she does. She hangs out with me like every.
All right, for CL, I'm trying to think of what to say. Because on one side, you're one of the most stubborn people I've ever met, but at the same time, you are one of the most caring. But that's once again, your stubbornness plays into that, because then you don't want to fucking listen when people tell you stop being so goddamn nice.
I can't help it.
Stubborn bitch.
You stubborn, nice bitch.
Exactly. Just for fuck's sake.
Why the fuck you gotta be so nice?
Like, tell somebody to fuck off once in a while. Shit.
Yeah, that's literally like an anime scenario. Like, why are you so nice to everybody? What the fuck? Me, say something mean.
Say something nice about Dylan. Fuck. I like the way that you.
I like the way you stop on my streams.
See, that's the type of shit that Joe would say, turn into a compliment about himself. Fucking asshole. Dylan, you are a very good storyteller. I feel like you would be a really good writer. What would that be, Dran? Kiltano, yeah, that is about all I can say about you, too. I like the way you stop by my streams. Because I don't really know much about you, so I can't really... but
I don't know much about any of my viewers either. They don't,
but, like... yeah, Kiltano, you're always in my streams. So, like, thank you for that. You're very loyal viewer.
Exactly, right? That's a good compliment. I appreciate you for stopping by.
Yeah.
Oh, man. We are not nice people.
I mean, considering who we hang out with, do you blame us for being jaded and cynical?
I mean, you decide to hang out with the people you hang out with.
I do not. I've been trying to get rid of y'all for years. Y'all just won't leave.
I mean, I can just leave. Fine. I see what I'm not wanted.
Bye, bitch.
I blame Heel. Heel's a bad influence on Gert.
He really is. He really is.
He's a bad influence on everybody, though. He's a bad influence on himself.
See, Gert should hang out with me more. He would just get a bigger ego, but that would be like, got it.
No, that would be disastrous for everyone. You know it. If I had a bigger ego, bruh.
But you can't deny that it's not the worst thing.
Yeah, but I'm a lot more humble because I secretly hate myself too.
Gert's like getting everybody to boast him up, and then he goes in the mirror and he's like, fuck it.
All right, let's.
It's the opposite with me. I look at myself in the mirror. I go, "You great. You gonna do great things. You are awesome." That's an everyday thing for me.
Yeah, it's lagging a little bit.
That's because you're also streaming.
Okay, there it goes. It's fine now.
What is that aim? What is that aim?
Summertime's great, but just because the temps are high
Fucking
doesn't
lag.
mean your energy bill has to be.
Make it
Take some
stop.
simple low-cost
Fuck.
tips from DTE.
Your friend's a Hanzo player. How can you be this bad?
Your HVAC
I'm not bad. This is decent flick shots. Fuck you.
properly set a programmable thermostat.
The lag. Make it stop.
$100 a year. You can keep the family cool and keep your energy bill.
Yeah, I'm lagging hard.
More tips.
Yeah,
Head
it's
to
also 'cause you're streaming.
DTEenergy.com/saveenergy. DTE.
Gur's gonna just turn into a Q&A streamer and fucking just chat and stream.
I mean,
Right.
hey,
That's what Mark does.
Yeah, it's actually good. People like it for some reason. I don't know why.
I need to start doing it myself.
I've been doing a lot more creative streams.
Fucking the bridge keeps yelling at me, telling me to do it too.
Yelling at the mic. Fucking beard's weird.
I don't understand. Why does that become like a meme?
I don't know, because it's such a just awkward and stupid line. Fucking beard's weird.
This is a cow. A cow
Yo,
whose
that's
milk
a fact.
became everyone's favorite cheese at the craft fair, but cheese only lasts so long.
Yeah, I'm lagging hard. Playing Overwatch probably is not an option. Like, the game straight up froze.
Starting at $9.99. Choose from
Yeah,
hundreds of
streaming wise,
recipes
now I could
tailored
play
to
with
your
that.
type of company, or upload your own. The choice is yours. The time is now. Get 500
Yeah, I'm getting like 3 frames per second. This is
Look at
very
your
good.
task manager right now.
SPOTIFY at checkout on Vistaprint.com. Vistaprint. Own
Let's
them
see.
now.
Task manager.
Give it a second to settle too.
I'm gonna go torture a muffin hoe, so yeah.
A what?
That's what we call a bridge muffin hoe.
Muffin Daddy is what you were calling him.
Muffin daddy's what I call
You
him.
just gonna leave us like that? I see how it is.
Right. Bring
You
him
don't
over
love
here.
us? Exactly.
They're in their own thing.
Well, tell them to come over here.
You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. I'm on a mission, damn. You know that, girl.
I understand that. Bring them over here.
I'm hurt.
You'll be
Let's see.
Bring no asses here.
They won't because the two that they're with don't know you guys.
So let them get to know us. Shit. Fucking assholes.
Fucking unsocial fucks.
Come get to know us.
Social and shit.
They're doing their own stream anyway. Like the one's doing a stream that's gonna like intervene with yours, so probably not a good idea.
I'm literally just sitting here just bullshitting. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, he just talking.
You'll be fine. And we're back.
I feel like CL just doesn't want to hang out with us.
Right. I feel so disrespectful.
I was yesterday, didn't I?
Yeah, exactly. I agree with Kiltana. What, you think you're better than us? Is that what it is?
I am. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. I'll be back.
I hope you drop your pizza.
The delay on that is terrible. Oh my god.
Look at you practicing.
I can't. It's trash. I hate it. I'm lagging so hard. I can't even get my flicks off. This is ridiculous.
What sensitivity you on right now?
Hold on. I can check. Like even my me letting go of the mouse to fire the arrow is delayed as shit. Yeah, hold on, let me check my sensitivity. That's not gonna matter because, like you see up at the top, I'm getting like 15 to 13 frames per second. This is awful.
No, we can't see it. Your thing is covering it.
Sensitivity is 15.
Put it to 6 when you're playing Hanzo. Hanzo only, really. Everybody else, you can really fuck with it.
I'm lagging so hard.
Yeah, like when I play Hanzo, I'm at anywhere from 5 to 7, and when I play anybody else, it's anywhere from 7 to like 20.
Yeah, when it's not lagging, I can get these shots off easy. It's just, for fuck's sake, I keep getting lag spikes. Yeah, playing Overwatch ain't gonna do it. I can't.
You can't stream it.
No. That's lagging too much.
Yeah, but I'm saying play on Overwatch more, you know, like when like you're not doing anything, because Rennie are always on.
Yeah.
I know Rennie would love to play with you more.
Right. Seal is a towel. She just left us.
Right?
I feel so disrespected.
I bet she went into those hidden rooms, right?
Right. The disrespect.
Are they still in her server, or are they in like another server?
I think they're in a private call.
Those towels.
Right. Let me see. Is Rennie on?
I think she's at work right now.
Yeah. She is. But
Yo,
then...
do you remember when Eminem dropped that response to MGK?
Mhm.
He said, "Last night I left Rihanna just hit me on a text. Last night I left hickeys on her neck."
Mhm.
You know, Rihanna came out and literally said, "The fuck you didn't." Like Rihanna called him gross and shit.
Oof. Oof. It's a big oof.
Like Rihanna called Eminem gross and everything. It's fucking hilarious.
Oof.
Like you gotta lose points after using that line, and then somebody comes out and says that shit.
Oof. Okay, any more questions? We got 7 people here.
Got 3 on Twitch side.
Yeah, I don't even think my computer would be able to handle streaming Xenoverse 2 right now. That's how trash this shit has become.
Well, Xenoverse 2 works on a graphics card, so you might actually be.
I don't have it installed. Yeah, I straight up uninstalled that shit from my computer.
Vera got bodied and then uninstalled it.
I did not get bodied, sir.
I bodied you. I bodied everybody.
You had to spam fucking Super Godfist in order to do it, though.
I was trolling the shit out of you guys.
Kept using the same. That's always a bad fucking idea in any fucking fighting game. Spamming the same move over and over again.
I was trolling the shit out of you guys.
Such a piece of shit. You know what you did.
You know what though? I remember Tom said he could beat me, so I went on my main, which is Trunks, and then I broke his stamina and killed him in 1 combo. Fighting games are just my thing.
I don't play him very often.
Bro, so I have this one friend, his name is Valen, and he's the only one who could actually beat me in Smash that I know. Right? I'll take a couple games off him here and there, but majority of the time, he beats me. Right? So, but he's really fucking good. Like, he's like up there with some of the better people like that are just that play Smash in general. But like after playing with him, I would play like common people and like other servers, and I would just body them.
Yeah, I want to play something, but I don't really have anything that I can play without it lagging like a motherfucker.
See, what you need to do is go get yourself a Switch and Smash.
But I wouldn't be able to stream it, is the problem.
No, you would, because it would be running through a capture card.
I guess, but I'd have to buy a capture card too.
Don't you have one?
See, I had left it with CL.
I thought you had. I thought you guys had two.
Nope.
Rihanna just hit me on a text. Last night on the hickeys on her. No, the fuck you didn't, you ugly old man.
Oof.
Yeah.
What the fuck is the weather? Because it just got super fucking hot in here.
I think it's like, you're probably close to me, so it's around probably the same. Alexa, what's the weather outside?
In Bayshore, it's 70 degrees Fahrenheit with clear skies and sun. Tonight, you can look for lots of clouds with showers, with a low of 59 degrees.
There you go.
Well, that's for New York though.
Where do you live? Maryland?
Utica, Michigan.
Alexa, what's the temperature in Utica, Michigan?
Right now, in Utica, Michigan, it's 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Tonight, expect a low of 58 degrees.
The humidity is high as fuck. That's why. It's 80% humidity right now.
You gotta love Alexa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's 80% humidity. That's why it's hot. Because I am down here sweating now. It's fucking hot as hell.
I got an AC in.
Well, my grandma keeps it 65 in the house year round. But it just got hot in here all of a sudden.
Like,
Dragon Ball Super. And I guess currently for my YouTube channel, I lead you guys into, I guess, comedy.
If you actually started playing Smash and got everything for it, I think you could probably take it off as a Smash channel. Not for being good, but for being funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think, like, you know how some people are just really bad at the game and they enjoy playing it, and like they're just
Cough, dashy.
Exactly. Like I think if you did that in Smash, you could take off on YouTube and on Twitch with that shit, because people love that stuff when people like really bad at fighting games, but they're just fucking hilarious.
I mean, once again, I'd have to get a Switch. Because I left that with CL.
Like I said, you gotta get a job. No problem.
Right. Matter of fact, I need to text them.
Yo, don't you want that new $200 controller?
What the fuck are they smoking? Once again, like, bruh, that is the cost of a goddamn console, where you will get a free controller included with the shit. Like, nigga, fuck are y'all smoking?
Xbox introducing our new Elite Controller Series 2. You can pre-order now. Doesn't tell you the price. I wonder how much that costs. Goes on their site, $200. What the fuck is wrong with you guys?
Once again, that's the cost of a console. Like, nigga, for real? $200 for a controller.
You don't understand though. Like, you could take off the analog sticks and switch them around and like tighten them, and it has different modes and settings.
I might as well buy an Xbox One for that price.
That's just fucking hilarious. Then I was like, I wonder how much those controls are. I was like, maybe $100. Like, I could see $100 for all of it. Like, $200? You crazy? Like, it's not that customizable. I can't give it a paint job and shit like that.
Yeah,
like, like Scuff. Like, you know what Scuff is, right?
Wait, what?
You know what Scuff is, right?
In what context?
The controller company, Scuff?
No.
They basically, you'll send them your controller and fucking odd it out. So like they'll give you like a button underneath, so you can like equip that button to any other button. So like, let's say you're playing Call of Duty, so this way you don't have to take your finger off the shoot button or another button. Your finger resting underneath the controller can just hit it and it'll jump or some shit like that. And like you can paint, give it a paint job. They'll customize your controller. They'll mess around with your analog sticks, give you some new shit. Like it's like a fully customizable controller company, and they do other stuff too. Like I think they customize console.
I just opened back up Water Fox and fucking it. I saw the Chris Brown ticket thing. I said this before to you, Joe, but I don't think I said it on stream. But like, me and my mom were gonna go see Fluffy in September too, but his tickets are fucking sold out. Yeah. Well, no, there was like $75, which my mom didn't mind paying for. It's just they're sold out.
I think I showed you. No, we weren't screen sharing. The $75 tickets are all the way up, like in the fucking nosebleeds.
Yeah. Fluffy's tickets are sold out for the September showing.
They're fucking dumb amount of money.
Yeah, but we were gonna go see Fluffy, but can't.
Fluffy! Hey!
Yep, sold out.
Hey! What? How'd you get in there, SA?
Bruh, the last concert I went to was fucking Nelly. That's how long it's been since I've been to a concert. Nelly was the last one.
Fucking motherfucker had a band-aid on it.
Uh-huh. That's how long it's been since I've been to a concert.
I remember when motherfuckers used to think that shit was cool.
Right.
I'm gonna put a band-aid on my face too. Nelly doesn't.
Top 3 favorite snacks. Burritos are pretty cool.
That's not a snack. That's a meal.
It depends on.
You mean like chips,
Okay.
or candies, or
Okay, candies and chips and shit. Okay, let me see. Chips, sweet chili Doritos are fucking delicious.
chip-wise, I would have to go
Summertime's
with.
great, but just because the temps
Hey,
are
Demon Lord.
high doesn't mean your
I'll go with the
energy bill has
classic
to
that you
be.
can never get old
Take
of.
some simple
Cool
low-cost
Ranch
tips from
Doritos.
DTE, like changing
For candy,
to make sure your HVAC
sour
system isn't wasting
Skittles.
energy, or installing a properly set up
Sour Patch
programmable thermostat to save about 180.
And then a
You
third
can keep the
thing.
family cool and keep your energy bill low. For more tips, head to dteenergy.com/saveenergy.
Ho-Hos are pretty good.
I would have to go with lemon cream cookie.
Hmm.
For the next few days, you can get 3 whole months of Spotify Premium for just 99 cents.
Sophie's been quiet, and I'm concerned.
Whenever you want.
Where the fuck is she?
So whether you're
Sophie.
chill or turning it way up, the music
Oh, she's over there sleeping.
keeps playing.
Philipano said Lay's chili lemon chip
And then Snickers.
and Snickers.
Favorite ice cream. Once I've explained this before on stream. They don't make it anymore, but Blue Moon ice cream. You know no. It's you know the blue part of Superman ice cream. That's Blue Moon. It's pineapple and raspberry flavor, and it's blue. Fucking delicious. Sophie is my cat.
It's still available.
Yeah, but it's hard to come by. I've never seen it
It
anywhere.
says Blue Moon ice cream flavor with bright blue coloring available in the Midwest United States, popular originating in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Yeah, I haven't seen it anywhere.
There's a lot of things on it how to make it from home.
Pineapple and blue raspberry is what it is.
My favorite ice cream, it'd probably be banana split ice cream.
Yeah, let's see.
I was supposed to go play basketball like 2 hours ago when I fucking showed up.
It's fine. Yeah, Sophie's my cat. I've posted several videos of her on Twitter. Like, we tried to give her catnip for the first time. Turned out it was weed. I have a video up there of her getting her collar for the first time.
Yo, I got a favorite candy bar.
Favorite candy bar?
Yeah, like chocolate candy.
Reese's Fast Break is probably really high up there for me.
Cookies and cream Hershey.
Take 5 is pretty good too. And Carmelo's are pretty good too.
Carmelo's?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Remember Rolos?
Mm-hmm. Those are good too.
Those shit just get stuck in your teeth though.
Yeah. What time is it? 5? Almost 6.
Favorite fruit?
Favorite fruit?
Yeah.
Either raspberries or peaches for me.
Coconut. Because coconut, you got coconut water inside that you drink and it tastes delicious. And then you got the meat of the coconut, which tastes delicious.
Kilsano said, yeah, hell yeah, coconut's the shit. Yeah, peaches and raspberries for me. Trying to think.
Tom said, fuck you, Joe. I know what you're gonna say.
Oof.
he said pineapple. That's Gur's thinking, not mine.
Giggity.
Exactly.
Let's see what's happening in the news. I don't think it's anything that I really haven't heard already.
Kevin Durant ruptured.
Yes, I know Chris Brown is going on tour.
Do you have a moment to talk about Chris Brown's penis?
Right. Favorite drink.
Dude, did you just hear what you said?
What?
I said, do you have a moment to talk about Chris Brown's penis? You said, yup, favorite drink.
Gross. I'm trying to think. What's your favorite drink?
We talk about overall, we like a brand like soda or juice.
For soda, mine would be Baja Blast.
Same.
For juice, Ruby Red Grapefruit.
Juice, I gotta go with raspberry. Raspberry lemonade all the way.
Let me see. For tea,
Mint Melody.
chai.
Energy drinks.
Monster.
Game Fuel.
Monster.
Dude, you ever have a Game Fuel?
Mm-mm. Hey, you've told me about it. It's Mountain Dew shit.
Yeah, it tastes like Mountain Dew.
Hmm.
It tastes like soda, but it's energy drink. It's fucking amazing.
Yep, Monster's pretty good. I'm trying to think. Coffee,
Coconut coffee.
caramel mocha.
Now, we talking about Starbucks wise, or we just talking about like coffee you can just buy and store and just like brew it at home?
Oh, if we're talking stuff we can brew at home, raspberry dark. Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah, if we're talking about stuff at home, coconut, but we talking like going to Starbucks or a coffee place, I gotta go with the white chocolate macadamia coffee from Starbucks.
White chocolate raspberry. That's both my favorite flavor of ice cream and favorite type of coffee. White chocolate raspberry.
Favorite type of water?
Does vitamin water count?
Yeah, water.
All right, well, vitamin water. Pomegranate, acai, fucking vitamin water.
I gotta go with Voss water. It's literally a bottle of Voss water is like fucking $15.
What do you guys wanted to do when you were kids? What did I want to do when I was a kid?
Be a porn star. I mean, what?
Well, for me, it was kind of always I wanted to do something with voice acting. So, like, that started like when I was in like 8th grade. Family Guy and South Park came out. That's what I wanted to do with my life.
I wanted to be a porn actor.
Oof.
You know, like Lexington Steele, like.
That man made me feel inadequate as a man. Like I wasn't having, like I wasn't having orgasms correctly all my life. Because if I'm not screaming like that, I don't feel like I'm doing it right.
So this man is old. Like, what you looked up to when you were growing up, Lexington Steele? What? You heard me.
Yeah, things I want to do in the near future. I want to get back into dancing, take a martial art, and I want to learn to sing as well. Like I want to start taking singing classes. I heard that's a lot of fucking work and like hurts your like danger private areas and dangerous ways and shit.
No, it's just a lot of fun.
Like I heard it's painful.
No, basically you just gotta be able to get hard on.
I guess.
Like literally what they do is this. So I have people I know who actually are porn stars, and like so basically what they'll do is like so they'll be like, all right, we're gonna be doing this scene today. You gotta do this, and they'll be like, all right, start fucking, and you go into it. If you're doing a scene or whatever, bullshit script with bad acting, typical, and then like you'll start fucking, and they'll be and like halfway through the fucking, they'll be like, all right, stop, and you gotta stop, you gotta pull it out. They'll be like, all right, so now we're gonna do this. You gotta do this. You gotta do this, and like it's like 5 minutes, and they're explaining to you, and that whole time. You either gotta be like be able to get hard on command, or you just gotta stay hard the entire time while talking to the dude who's directing you. And
See, I wouldn't be able to have sex with just a bunch of random people as a profession. No, I couldn't do it.
You gonna tell me if like Jenna Jameson was like running you, you're not gonna be able to be like, all right, I can do this.
I mean, if it was one person, on the regular, sure, but I wouldn't be able to fuck a different person every day. Fuck that.
I would.
No, I couldn't do it. What's my favorite type of game? Action adventure. I like horror stuff too.
Girl, you should do at least one porn movie professionally because you make a lot of money. You really do. Like you make like I think it's like $2,000 per scene. Just think, you shoot 2 scenes, that's $4,000 in your pocket.
Right.
And that's a day's work.
Am I happy about where I am today? Kind of. Things are starting to turn around, but it could be better. I'm all right.
If you're happy of where you are now, then that means you don't have any real aspirations. Real aspirations where you have to work for every day you go.
I'm okay. I could be better though.
I kind of want to put Lexington Steel, the grunting noise, as my fucking notification for me.
Yeah, Justin Bieber's trying to fight Tom Cruise. Like, what the fuck?
I heard about that. Why?
I don't know.
Like, what's the point?
I don't know.
Like, a young dude versus an old dude. And what was it? A boxing match or MMA match?
Yeah, UFC.
Like, what the fuck?
For what?
I'm not making money off of it.
For what? I saw Danny DeVito apparently responded to it saying, "Fight me, you coward, you won't."
So who? Justin Bieber?
Yeah.
Isn't that man like 5'2"?
I think so. But yeah, just out of nowhere, Justin Bieber is tweeting Tom Cruise like, "Fight me." Like, for
He's
what?
4'10".
Who, Danny DeVito is?
Yeah.
Bruh. That's funny.
He's 4'10".
I mean, to be legally considered a midget, you got to be like 4'9". So he's like.
No, it's actually 4'10" for a male.
Huh.
It's 4'8" for a female.
No, you're fine, Andrea. This is the Q&A. Why not? Go for it.
Fight me, you coward.
It's funny as hell.
Doesn't mean we're fucking bullying old people. Did you see the video of Justin Bieber getting stuck in the hood? He got stuck in the hood, his car broke down, and the whole hood came out, and was like bullying him and making him do push-ups and rap for them and shit.
Nice. That's
Like,
right. This shit is tight when we go rappers at the mic. Bitch. I don't know, does he?
What you said?
Doesn't Justin Bieber back out of fights a lot?
Yeah, he was supposed to fight a couple people.
Welcome back, Damon Moore. I don't know if you've been shot in the nuts. Spoiler, it sucks.
Just think it's shot in the nuts.
Yes. And poor mistake. Again and again, guys, she'll have ghastly dreams that haunt her dreams. You'll want more. And if you don't, we'll beat your ass till it's Bulbasaur. Fucking ninja sex party.
People are texting me right now like, where the fuck are you? You're supposed to come play ball. And I was
You
like,
know what's a good price for a gallon of gas.
The Godzilla movie was great. I loved it.
And where to get a good price on a dozen eggs. But
I've
did you
been
know that
actually
different
considering going to go
pharmacies
see it
charge very
again.
different prices for the exact same prescriptions? It's time you
Huh?
knew. RX Saver by Retail Me Not lets you compare
How do you
prices in your
figure?
area and gives you
You've seen it
coupons
once,
for
you
up
don't
to
need to see it
80%
again.
off. Go to rxsaver.com.
Tom Cruise too busy making Top Gun 2 and another Mission Impossible fight Justin Bieber.
See website for details.
How tall is Tom Cruise anyway? Because I hear a lot of people making jokes about how short he is. Like, how tall is he actually?
Tom Cruise.
You could have played a cassette tape.
Tom Cruise is
You could have
5'7".
listened to an 8-track tape.
That's about average.
If you knew what an 8-track tape looked like.
Let's
But
see.
you listened to Spotify.
Justin Bieber.
Thanks for that. And you still
Just-
have hundreds more
he's
playlists to
5'9".
enjoy.
Why do people constantly talk about Tom Cruise being short? Like,
Because he's under average height by an inch.
5'8" to 5'10" is about average for a male. So,
Like Danny DeVito is short.
yeah. Cherished memory?
Dude, could you imagine being?
I don't know. That's hard to think of. Him. Could I imagine being that short? Because I'm 5'10", so.
Could you imagine being 4'10"? Imagine losing a foot.
No.
like imagine how hard things are gonna be. Like, you can't fucking reach the top shelf of anything.
Right.
I got a question. If you woke up one day in a girl's body, what would you do?
First thing would be masturbate. Let's be real.
It's not even a question. It's just like, fuck it.
How tall is Chris? Chris Brown is 6'1", apparently.
Let's check this. How tall is Chris Brown?
6'1". How tall is Kevin Hart? 5'4".
Little Wayne's 5'5".
Cat Williams is 5'5". Prince is 5'2". Yeah, Prince was short.
Shortest man in history.
Let's see, how tall was Michael Jackson? Michael Jackson was 5'9".
Hey bro, it's me. Luigi is here.
Justin Timberlake.
The shortest man in the world is 21 inches.
So that's
Not even 2 feet.
right. Justin Timberlake is 6'1". Best dating advice? I couldn't give you that because I'm struggling with the shit right now.
Best dating advice, depending on the situation. Give me a situation.
I don't know.
What's the issue? What's the situation? What's the ordeal?
Nope. Michael Jackson was 5'9". See how.
I love that question. Best dating advice. You gotta say something obscene like, just whip your dick out.
Well, damn. Chris Rock is 5'10".
Chris Rock is 5'10".
Mhm.
Let's see, what's the tallest man in the world?
Chris Hemsworth is 6'3".
Tallest man in the world.
Chris Pratt is 6'2".
Jesus fucking Christ.
What?
Dude was 9 foot. Could you imagine being 9 foot fucking tall?
Oh, hell yeah, Mega Matt. Though that's a spoiler, sir. I'm not sure if everybody here has seen it, so.
Seen what?
The Godzilla movie.
What was your favorite scene from the movie?
See, Goku's 5'10", like me. Vegeta's 5'5".
Kiltaro said Jesus Chun was 6'3"? Are you talking about our Chun? Like Chun-Yi?
Damn, Dragon Ball Super Broly is 7'5".
That's nothing. Did you fucking see, I think Perfect Cell is like 8 something.
As a legendary Super Saiyan, he's 9 feet.
I don't think Chun-Yi's 6'3". I thought Chun-Yi was like 5'11".
I don't know. Mark's 5'7". Joe, aren't you like 5'10"?
No, I'm 6'2".
Goddamn. Tall motherfucker. I'm hungry. You know some shit that never made sense to me? Why is it called preheating your oven? There are two options for an oven. Heating and fucking cooking. There's no preheat. Fuck. That don't make no sense. Before you turn on the oven, isn't that technically preheating? Because you haven't heated it yet. Make no fucking sense.
Preheating means like you preheat it so when you put the food in, it's at the proper temperature. You're preheating for the food so it's at the proper temperature. You're not preheating the oven for the oven. You're preheating for the food. You're heating the oven up ahead of time before you put the full food in, so it's preheating for the full food.
Even so, you're still heating it up. So how is it preheating implies that you're heating it before you heat it? Doesn't make no damn sense.
Well, you're heating it up until it gets to the max temperature that you need it at, so that would be preheating because it's not at the proper heat.
Let me look it up. How tall is Edward Elric? Let me look.
I thought he was like 5'3".
Edward Elric. Height. For most of the story, he is 5'11", 6'2" by the end of Brotherhood.
How the fuck is he 5'11"? He looks short as
No,
shit.
4'11".
Oh, 4'11".
4'11" for most of the series, and then by the end of Brotherhood, he's 6'2".
I was gonna say, like, this man was short as shit throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, 4'11" for most. Well, also consider he was 12 years old for most of it. So, like, that's actually reasonable.
I still haven't watched that show.
Yeah, he was 12 years old for most of FMA.
Yeah, I still haven't watched Full Metal. I just seen clips. Like when Roy Mustang just started fucking lighting that bitch on fire. Remember that scene?
Yep. Think about that. Edward Elric was the same height at 12 years old as Danny DeVito is now. Bruh. Well, I'll be right back. Joe, I'll leave it to you to entertain the people, I guess. Good luck with that. No, I don't. But I need to go put a pizza in the oven because I'm hungry.
Yay, take over stream.
Yeah. I apologize for anything that Joe does. I'll be right back.
He takes responsibility. So what's going on, chat? How's it going? How am I doing today? I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. How you doing? Danny DeVito as Ed what? I think that would be actually pretty hilarious. You would have to give him a wig. It'd be pretty damn funny. Hello. Hello, Demon Lord 24. One thing I like about her, one thing I like how funny the man is. He's a funny guy. He's a funny guy. One thing I'll change about him, change the fact that he doesn't answer people fast enough. This man makes you wait a long ass time to reply to nowhere. Come on, keep the questions coming, guys. I'll entertain you. My favorite game type, I would have to go. It's a tie between role-playing games, like Kingdom Hearts or something like that, or Devil May Cry, and then normal fight games. Movie. I'd rather listen to my favorite movie for 24 hours because of the fact that I put on the TV when I'm going to bed, so I have background noise, and music is like, I would just get hype all the time. If that was with a movie, I could just like literally just fall asleep and it'd be good. So yeah, movie, 24 hours.
trouble getting what I want. But when it comes to you, I'm never good enough. When I don't care, I can play 'em like a Ken doll. Won't wash my hair, then make 'em bounce like a
So how is everybody's days? What y'all been up to? Y'all doing anything exciting? Oh, easy question. I'd rather sacrifice my friends to save myself. Because we'd all do the same damn thing.
When you come around, I get paralyzed. And every time I try to be myself, it comes out wrong like a cry for help. It's just not fair. Pain's more trouble than love is worth. I guess for air, it feels so good, but you know it hurts. But you make me wanna act like a girl, paint my nails and wear perfume for you. Make me so nervous that I just can't hold your hand. You make me glow, but I cover up, won't let it show.
Not heartless, smart. Tactical. Thinking on the fly. Dude, I got no idea who that is. Is that a character like from Walking Dead or something? I couldn't read it fast enough and like disappear too quick. I saw like GIFF or something like that. Berserk, actually, you need to watch it. I heard about Berserk. It's not my type of ad. Seems like really
Sometimes great.
weird, I
But
guess
just
you
because
could
the
put it.
temps are high doesn't mean your
Or weird
energy bill
elements
has
to
be.
it.
Take some simple low-cost tips from DTE, like changing your air filter every 3 months to make sure your HVAC system isn't wasting energy. Or install and properly set a programmable thermostat to save about $180 a year. You can keep the family cool and keep your energy bill low.
Grr.
For more tips, head to DTE.
Just so I can annoy him the whole day.
DTE.
I'd go around constantly just calling him Goku. Because I know he hates it. What's your favorite Keyblade? Favorite Keyblade? That's a hard one. It's the final one you get. Forgot the name of it. The final one you got from like Kingdom Hearts 2.
All right, I'm back for about 10-20 minutes.
Oh, what you gonna do?
Just making a pizza.
Oh, you're making a Nigga, order food.
No. Yeah, it's in the oven now.
They asked me if I could spend one day with one of my friends, who would it be and what would I do? I said it would be you, so I could annoy you the whole day.
Fucking prick.
I said I'd go around pulling you curfew the whole day.
Fucking ass.
What's your Twitch? Who's Mr. Chili 35?
Who? Oh.
You're look at your if you look at your overlay.
Oh
right?
yeah, that's most recent follower.
Oh.
Aaron Magruder is currently trending. They apparently just confirmed Boondocks is coming back.
I want the cornbread, granddad.
Yep, it's official. Boondocks is coming back to TV.
Nigga, you gay.
Is Boondocks considered an anime?
No.
I mean, by the it's an American cartoon, but it's drawn in the art style of Samurai Champloo.
It's different. It's
I mean, like it's a weird hybrid because it's inspired by anime, even more so than freaking Avatar: The Last Airbender is. But it's still American made.
Well, here's the thing. Animes are made different than actual cartoons.
Mhm.
There's I watched the video of the prop. So that's why there's a difference. That's why not everything is called anime and not everything is called a cartoon.
Well, anime specifically means Japanese animation. And it's not Japanese, but it's inspired by it.
Nick, you gay. What was that scene where fucking he was like, I want the cornbread, granddad. Why is this bitch kid?
He said, cause she a hoe. Why the hoe up in our house eating cheddar biscuits? The fam ain't eating cheddar biscuits, granddad.
Cause she a hoe.
Yeah, Japanese cartoon, Japanese animation, same thing.
Cause she a hoe. Why is she eating cheddar biscuits, granddad? Why is the fam not eating cheddar biscuits, granddad?
I think the world needs the Boondocks right now. Because people are so goddamn sensitive. They're gonna rip political.
They're gonna make jokes about it.
They're gonna make political correctness just go away.
Who or what inspired you to become who you are?
Seth MacFarlane? Question mark?
Show it, I don't know. Myself.
Fucking egotistical bastard.
I don't look up to anybody. There's not no like out there that I'm like, I want to be like that. If anything, probably Conor McGregor, because I was like his attitude. It's fucking hilarious. Oh fuck, I'm having done in one. Did you see the press conference when he went to go fight Floyd Mayweather?
Mm-mm.
He goes, don't you know I'm half black? I'm black from the waist down.
Oof.
He said that shit live on TV. It was fucking hilarious.
Ninja Sex Party. Hell yeah, dude. Tom's apparently going to one of their concerts. They're about to start touring in the UK. Lucky ass. He's going to a Ninja Sex Party concert.
Go to one anime world. What world would you go to?
Fairy Tale.
Fairy Tale?
Mm-hmm.
Let me switch the question a little bit. If you could go to any anime world, but you don't have any powers, you're just your basic self, what world would you still want to go to?
Probably still Fairy Tail because there's items that can do that shit too.
You need to have magical powers to be able to.
Yeah, but there's also modern technology and all that shit.
I would have to go. See, all the animes I watch are fucked. I'm dead. Fucking devils and demons and shit. I'd be like, oh, well, I'm dead. Alright, so, okay, what if you could go to any world but you had those powers?
Fairy Tail. Uh-huh.
Even with the vast majority of other things out there, heroes.
Yep. Still Fairy Tail.
I would, if I could have a choice of powers, and I get powers, I would have to go to.
I never really thought about it.
I'm gonna fight for that harem king fucking spot. You know what I'm saying? Oh, Gur, you need to watch this anime that just came out and just started.
Yeah, I then again, I would have to agree with Dylan. Full Metal Alchemist, because alchemy technically isn't a power. It's just science and chemistry.
Yeah, well, look at the sacrifice.
Well, don't sacrifice a fucking human and you're fine.
Well, what's the fun then?
It's fucking gay.
But, like, God. Going to, like, another world would be pretty tricky, if you think about it.
Either that or Naruto, because everyone has chakra there. It's just some people don't know how to use it, or choose not to.
Yo, there's an anime going on right now that just came out that you should watch. I think you would really, really like it.
What?
It's actually one of the best animes I've ever watched, and probably the best manga I've ever.
What?
It's called Demon Slayer.
Never heard of it.
It's basically about this kid. He's like 15, 16 years old, and he's like a delivery boy. Like he delivers stuff to like villages and stuff like that. And one day his whole family gets slaughtered by like the leader of like the demons and stuff like that, and turns his sister into a demon. And so he's trying to figure out a way to like get her to turn back to a human. So he becomes a demon slayer with his group of his organization. And he goes around killing like demons and trying to find a cure for his sister and stuff like that.
I see.
Protecting his sister. It's really fucking good.
I see. Huh.
Highly recommend it. Anybody to watch it. It was probably the best anime I've ever watched.
What's that supposed to mean? Fuck you, just to spite you, Dylan. I'm gonna do Genjutsu. Fuck you.
You see Gur is a taijutsu focused character. Basically saying your ass talentless.
Okay, character you relate the most to?
You say Yoda, because I want to bang against memory.
Probably Edward Elric or Natsu Dragneel.
So you an idiot? That's what you're telling yourself?
Well, no, somebody who bottles up shit and will fuck you up if you mess with me.
Yeah, but they're also dumb as rocks.
Ed's a fucking prodigy genius. Fuck you mean?
Yeah, but he's also a dumbass at times too. Especially Natsu.
Another one would be Gohan from Dragon Ball.
I have to go to the pudding.
Oh, so you can disappoint everybody.
That was not Gohan's fault. Okay, that's because Toriyama's a bad writer. That's not Gohan's fault.
We'll probably twist everything. Or Gohan, so you're just gonna discipline everybody.
That's not Gohan's fault. All right, I'll be right back. I gotta go check my pizza. Right back.
You want to do this again?
Just how long 3 minutes really is. Let's skip right to the end. 179,000. 181,000. Oh!
So sleepy. Either here or Ichigo. Ichigo has relatable goals. Did you say Gur to be Ichigo?
If you rent, you might not be able to change much about your home, but DTE can still help you save on your energy bill. We have tons of low and no-cost tips that are good for the environment and help you save money. For example, switching your 5 most frequently used lights to Energy Star bulbs could save you nearly $50 a year. So start saving today. Visit dteenergy.com/saveenergy. DTE.
What anime would make a good game, and what game would make a good anime? Fairy Tail would make a great game, and game to anime would have to probably be.
Michael Bublé. Click the banner to listen now on Spotify.
Kingdom Hearts.
Time's running out to get ad-free music for a special tiny price. For the next few days, you can get 3 whole months of Spotify Premium for just 99 cents. That means you can play all the songs you feel like, whenever you want, uninterrupted. So whether you're keeping it chill or turning it way up, the music you need just keeps playing. Tap the banner to get 3 months of premium for just 99 cents.
Joe, what do you think?
You know, a lot of people come up to us and say, "Hey, Danny Sexbang and Ninja Brian, you guys wear a lot of
Gary
skirts
doesn't
and
play
you live
Smash,
together.
but I do. I don't really care for them. I'm gonna play them. I'm gonna try them out, see how they work, see how they do, see like all their moves and stuff like that. They look cool, but I would have rather them announce like somebody like Sora or Dante or like Crash Bandicoot. Gary will be right back. He just wants to go check his pizza. If you could have any superpower, what would it be? Why? Control of gravity fully. Reason why? Because you'd be the strongest in the world. Nobody would be able to touch you. Because literally gravity, you can do anything. You could float. You can make things heavier. You can crush things. You can make your attacks way more powerful. You could actually use gravity as a blade. Because it's a theory out there that if you make gravity thin enough or strong enough, it can actually cut through things. So, gravity.
On the mantle, I had sex with your whole kitchen with no boundaries or limits, and your lamp was looking so good that you know I had to hit it. Your wallet and your toothbrush and your jacket and your red hat. Oh, you're mad about the toothbrush? Just forget I ever said that. And your carpet and your furniture, your windows and the curtains, and I licked your stamp collection. I ticked your fluff for certain. I'm glad I got this off my chest. My soul has taken flight. Don't slam the door on your way out, darling, because I'm slamming it tonight. Oh my god, Stacy, did I tell you about my date with Steve last week? You went out with Steve? He's so cute! I know, he took me out to this little restaurant. Everybody shut up! I have an erection. It only happens 87 times a day. Stop what you're doing and witness penis perfection. This is more important than what you have to say. Your story can wait, cause I am very erect. Now let's all take a minute to watch my dick and reflect. Your spirit's at peace, no need to call the police. Please hold your applause. In conclusion, Your Honor,
What got us
in light of
interested
this
in
new
anime?
evidence, I would propose
I
that
can't
the
speak for
murderer
Gur,
is
but
not
for
quite
me,
planned, but
it was one day literally just on Netflix, and I came across a show called Sekiro, and I had no idea what the hell the show was. So I just clicked on it, and it got really interesting for me, and I was like, oh, this. There was another watched that and thought it was really cool, and then from there I just kept on watching other stuff like High School DxD, Fairy Tale, bunch of stuff. I probably, now that I became just addicted to anime, I watched over 400.
Ladies and gentlemen, as President of the United States, I must sometimes make grave decisions. I come to you today to tell you that the United States has decided to declare war on...
Shut up, Mr. President, I have an erection. Here's a tricky dick that cannot be impeached. Check out my nutsack, it can swing an election. This is more important than your 4-year speech. For one nation indivisible under God, we all stand together and be my glorious rod. Hey, those guys are fun. Oh wait, are they holding guns? Please hold your...
Somewhere, deep in the slow eternal dance of the heavens, drifts a planet called simply Earth. And among the otherwise unremarkable population of this planet are two incredible heroes, destined to save the future from itself.
Great voice type. Sometimes. What anime series would you recommend here? Starter anime. So, your Dragon Balls, your Fairy Tail.
Computer, set a sexy course for the sexiest year.
Demon Slayer. Like I would just say starter anime in general. Your basic stuff. So like Fairy Tail, Dragon Ball, Bleach, stuff like that.
Back.
Alright.
I got white chicken and bacon pizza.
That's racist.
Says human touch has been outlawed. I can't believe my eyes, but it's a world without sex. Everyone here just wears full-length pants.
Yummy though.
That's racist.
Men and
I hear you say
women
white.
wave to each other from a respectable distance. Without the thrill of boning, what is life? We must speak to the council of dick elders tonight. Excuse me, dick elders? What do you want? I know it's most unusual to come before you so, but the
For how are y'all?
sucks balls now that no one's allowed to vote. We've come from the past to introduce you to ass. We can ninja sex party, you will ruin our plans. Guards! Solid alarms! If people have sex, don't think 1,000 years spell. There will be a revolution and they'll think for themselves. We control this planet, all but satisfy one. Why does being evil always feel so damn good? Fuck that bullshit, we'll make it right. Get ready for a sexy fight. My dick's the spark of hope and a revolution shining night. We're taking flight, we have to find a girl. Shoot the fucking shoot the fucking lasers at 'em. Show her what it means to love. Fix this
I want a proper Dragon Ball live action movie.
all the fucking lasers at 'em. New sex king will rule, let the border banners be unfurled. Ninja Brian, look at that girl with the sad eyes and the beautiful blonde hair. I'm immediately in love. 60. She spent her life a little alone. 60. Wanna take her to the bone zone. 60. Make her feel the pleasure. 60. Now on a treasure. I can't believe my eyes, but you're the girl of my dreams. Let's both tear all of our clothes off like two pants hating Wolverines. The love we make will save the earth from this oppressive dick regime. Oh, 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 we're having sex now. Oh, oh, to change the world. Oh, oh, you both be friends now. Oh, shit, they're girls. I think it's obvious that people liked our sexy show. Multi-billion person orgy.
Alright, let me grab a drink.
Across the globe. The human race, much like my junk, will now be free for all.
Mhm.
Oh, hey, Jim Elders, how's it going?
You two are fucking dead!
So much for that, it's time to put on pants and run away from that death army, which is starting to advance.
Shoot the fucking lasers!
Well, I'm gonna end stream because for about 2.5 hours we've been sitting here doing nothing. So, later, everybody.